pause video. Okay, let's do this shit.
Alright, you ready?
I am indeed.
Anu?
Yep.
Alright, then we're going to start in unexpected 7 there. Okay, let's start in 3, 2, 1. Welcome chat room, iTunes, Android. You're listening to Skooma Junkies. This is our 7th episode. It is February 19th. We are only 43 days away from the release of ESO.
Woohoo!
And obviously some pretty big news. The NDA is up, so we can talk about whatever the hell we want to.
Yes.
Which I am super excited about personally. So this week we have a few quick things to go over. We have a new 5-star review on iTunes from Jones Singh. Thank you so much for that. Obviously our NDA has been lifted, and I just want to mention real quick, ESO Head is up, and obviously everyone's probably familiar with WoW Head, Tor Head, Rift Head. So ESO Head has been brought up with the lifting of the NDA. So there is full skill calculators and tons of other data to go look at. So definitely go to esohead.com and look at that. And they have vampire and werewolf skill trees up too, which we're going to talk about next week. So definitely take a look at that. It's pretty interesting. And if you do that, also go take a look at the Fighters Guild skill tree, because they have some skills that, as a friend of mine put it, turn the vampires and werewolves into kitty kibble. So all right. This week we're going to have a new developer question of the week. We have a new Ask Us Anything, Variety Pack 13, a Brian Wheeler interview at MMORPG.com. Lots of beta discussion is what we're going to talk about. Our discussion topic tonight is our beta gameplay experience. We have the Daggerfall Covenant on our lore library, a few new emails, and a new fishy stick of the week. So we're going to get started here. The first thing we do every week is the developer question of the week. So Nick, why don't you play that video for us?
Okay, give me 1 second. Now I have to find which one that is. There she is. Okay, for video. Now, you. Full screen play.
Hello, I'm Eric Mabry, and I'm a senior QA tester for ZeniMax Online Studios. As you battle the creatures that emerge from a dark anchor, Molag Bal will taunt you during the struggle. If you could come up with an intimidating and menacing taunt, tell us what it would be.
All right, so that's the new question of the week. Nick, your mic is muted. Anyways,
Thank you.
I don't want to take that one first. Why don't you, Ann, or Nick, whichever.
Okay. What kind of intimidating or menacing taunt you could come up with? I don't know. I was always a big fan of the simple, just the rah, just the crazy, manly warrior roar. Unless he means like some kind of taunt that Molag Bal would be throwing at you.
No, he means like us for him, I guess, but he's
Okay.
taunting us, so what would we yell back, maybe?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think of some good skinny little bone man. I don't know.
I personally, I don't even have one for that. I mean, what am I... I'm not good at that. Like, you Daedric Prince,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got nothing.
You
I'll think about
guys.
that if I think about something later.
I'm disappointed in both of you because I haven't even played Skyrim, and I already know that I would ask him if someone stole his sweet roll and if he was a milk drinker. So I'm disappointed in the both of you for not coming up with that.
That's a pretty good point. Nick wins this one.
Molag Bal has had at least 3 sweet rolls stolen from him, and that's why he's so evil looking. It just destroyed him.
He's super intimidating. You can't intimidate a Daedric Prince. I don't think so. All right. So the next thing we're going to get into is the Variety Pack number 13. And it does seem that this week we also have a cat that's going to be dashing around the room again. So if you see her flying from one end of the room to the other. So the new Variety Pack 13 Ask Us Anything. There's a lot of questions here. Not as many as we've had, actually, recently. but we're going to go over a few of them. I want to go over the second question first, and I'll read that, and then Anu, why don't you read the answer for us for this? If I get the Rings of Mara from the Imperial Edition, does the friend I decide to perform the ceremony with also need to have purchased the Imperial Edition in order for us to both get the bonus?
And they said only one copy of the Imperial Edition is required. When you purchase the Imperial Edition, you receive the Pledge of Mara. This is the item that you use to get the Rings of Mara. Only one Pledge of Mara is required. Both people do not need to have it. The pledge can be equipped for use. 2 characters can approach a Shrine of Mara within the game. Standing on sacred ground, the character with the pledge can target the character without, and then use the pledge to evoke the Ritual of Mara. Both characters must agree to share this commitment. Upon acceptance, a celebration occurs, and the rings are placed in each other's inventories. The rings are marked with the name of the matching character. While wearing the ring and adventuring with the corresponding partner, both characters will receive a bonus to their experience. This bonus stacks with others. Each pledge can only be used once. The names on the rings cannot be changed. This union is forever.
All right. This just really clears up how it works. I mean, for me, though, what I notice here, it's pretty cool. Like I said, I'm glad they have I've said this before, that we really need to have kind of like a little role-playing thing in there in the ceremony, and that's pretty cool. But what kind of bothers me about this is, from what it sounds like, you're only going to get this ring on one character. And once you hit level 50, if this is just an experience bonus, it's basically worthless, except for a couple of rings, I guess, for role-playing purposes. But once you hit level 50, you can't use them anymore. So if you don't get these rings on multiple characters, which it doesn't say here that you do, you lose that once you hit 50. And that kind of, I don't know, I think I'd like to, having it in the box and having paid for it, have that for all future characters that I might want to make. Because, I mean, it's already limited. If you're playing with somebody else, you still have to be playing with that person. It's not like a passive bonus all the time.
Yeah, it seems like it sort of works similar to a refer a friend, like from WoW, that kind of program.
I don't know. It's interesting that since only one person needs to have this, it makes me wonder if me and Megan are both going to have the Imperial Edition, so we get on and start playing, and she uses her Pledge of Mara to do this ceremony with me, and then can I use mine to do it with another person? And then I have that with 2 different people?
I would think so. I mean, from what it looks like, it's by character. So you can
use the
same
character. Can I, you know what I mean? Can I, since technically I'll still have my Pledge of Mara, because if you use yours, I'll still have mine. So then can I be, you know what I mean?
That's a pretty good question. I'd like to say that you couldn't, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. However, I don't think, since it's an object, I think that you probably could.
Yeah, you're trying to get a little bit of a love triangle there, Nick.
Yeah, that's right. The more ladies, the better. I mean, that's my motto.
Ladies? Wait, what am I missing here? All right. So that, yeah, I don't know. I mean, would you guys agree with me? Do you think that it's something that you should have on multiple characters? Or are you all right with how it is, if that is the case?
Personally, I think that they kind of had to only give it on one character, because theoretically speaking, if they're going to give it to you on multiple characters, now you bought the Imperial Edition, you have an experience boost for every character you ever make in the ESO. That I don't think they could do that. You know what I mean? These bonuses are supposed to mean something when the game drops, but other than that, they kind of devalue as time goes on, I think, except for obviously the physical items. But the in-game stuff, it's not as, it's not supposed to be something that gives you a major edge for 10 years. I think that it's just one of those things where, okay, you bought the Imperial Edition, we'll give you a boost on your first character, you can get to endgame faster, and then after that, you're on your own. Now, who knows, though? I'm sure that they're going to have something in the systems to have an experience boost other ways, because it even says that this can stack with other effects for experience boost, correct?
Yeah,
it does.
So it's not the only way that we can get an experience boost, that's for sure.
Alright, do you feel the same as he does, Anu?
Yeah, he took all the words out of my mouth, definitely. I just feel the exact same way.
Alright, yeah, I disagree. Like I said, personally, I think I'd like to have it on more because it's a leveling experience. And like I said, I do feel that since it's tied to having to be with another person, it's not like you can just make a new character whenever you want and just have an experience boost. But that's just my personal opinion. So, we're going to move to the next question here. And there's a few things. This one I want to clarify. I won't read it. But basically they said, do we receive the full benefits? When do we receive the full benefits of the Explorers Pack? Which is what you got for all pre-orders. And they said that will be unlocked on April 4th. From the start of Early Access, players who pre-ordered or pre-purchased any edition of the Elder Scrolls Online will be able to take advantage of the ability to play as any race in the Alliance. To enable this, pre-order customers and customers who pre-purchase from a third-party online retailer must first redeem their 3 or 5 day early access code.
Flying cat.
So we can get the any race, and from what I understand, this says here, if you pre-purchase any edition from the digital store, you don't need to take further action. What is she doing?
She's galloping around the room.
So we're gonna get the full range on the 4th, but we're gonna be able to play as any race in the Alliance right away, and that's good. I like that because if I'm gonna want to make another character, a character in an Alliance that would normally be in a different Alliance, I want to do that right away, not remake my character on the 4th. So as long as you have your early access code and you put that in, you're gonna be able to make your characters.
By the way, you skipped a question, just so you know.
I know, we're not doing every single one of them.
Oh, okay.
Alright. Now, here's interesting. If I pre-ordered or pre-purchased the Imperial Edition, will I be able to play as an Imperial during early access? Now, Nick, why don't you read that answer?
Okay, it says, during the early access period, Imperial Edition customers who have entered their 5-day early access code at ElderScrollsOnline.com will have access to the following. They can play as an Imperial and craft Imperial gear, transform any gear to look like Imperial gear, they will have the Imperial horse mount, and they will have the Rings of Mara. Customers who pre-purchase the Imperial Edition from our ESO store have no further action required, as the above items will unlock automatically for you at the start of early access. From April 4th, customers who pre-ordered the physical Imperial Edition must enter their Imperial Pack code in the box in order to retain these items and fully unlock the full Imperial Pack contents. So basically, they're saying that you get the majority of this stuff, but just so everyone is clear on what they're saying about it, if you ordered it, a physical edition or even a digital one from a third-party retailer, you have to enter in a code that, like, I know mine was on my receipt, so pay attention to that. That's for the early access stuff. And then when you get the box, you have to enter in the code for the extra Imperial Edition things, whereas if you order the digital edition on ESO.com, it just automatically accredits to your account, so you don't have to do anything.
All right, and one thing I noticed with that, when I got my Imperial Edition, our pre-order codes, it didn't say Imperial Edition when I put it on my account. It just said early access. But since there's a 3 and the 5-day early access, mine does say 5-day, so I'm going to assume automatically that means then that the code that you got from GameStop, wherever you purchased, was specific to an Imperial Edition, because I was wondering about that. But I think that the non-Imperial Editions only get the 3-day access. So, move on to the next question. This one is interesting, and I wasn't really clear on this before, but will I get the vanity pet on all of my characters? And Anu, why don't you read that?
Okay. The vanity pets in ESO are accessible account-wide. Any character can read the in-game mail that the vanity pet is delivered in and retrieve the attachment. When a character retrieves an attachment, the attachment is removed from the in-game mail and placed in the character's inventory for use. If you want to use the vanity pet on a different character, you can simply place it in the bank and retrieve it with the new character. Each attachment is a single item.
All right, so what this means then is there is no, like, getting a pet, you don't learn it, and you don't get a spell like we're used to in WoW and in a lot of games. This is actually an item that we're going to have in our bags, take up bag space. And if we don't have it in our bags, we can't have it out. That's okay. I mean, that's how it was back in the early WoW days, and that's how it is in some other MMOs. It's a little bit annoying, but at the same time, and I think about it, like, since we have to have an ability on our bar to use it, and this goes through the beta as well for pets. When I played a sorcerer for a while, and I had a summonable Daedra, a clan fear, and I couldn't summon him unless the ability was on my bar. So I couldn't, it wasn't just passive, it wasn't with me all the time, or whenever I wanted him to be it, only if the ability was on my bar for that. So I wouldn't want to have to stick a companion pet on my bar, obviously, that would be...
Yeah, that would be dumb.
Mm-hmm. So, are you guys okay with that? I mean, like I said, bag spaces.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I've never been a vanity pet kind of player, but I'm a bag space fan. Like I want my bags neat and tidy.
Well, then you and Nick would not get along very well.
Yeah.
Because his bags are
Listen,
ridiculous.
My bags are full, but it's full of important stuff, okay?
Oh, yeah. Lots and lots and lots of weapons, because you don't have any more space in your bank for weapons.
No, it's not mostly
Or
it's the fact
storage.
that I have 4 different sets of gear most of the time. I've got, like, a set for my frost spec and 2 sets for my unholy set. One's haste based, one is crit based, and then I have a blood set. It takes up a lot of bag space.
I disagree. Even your now I'm losing the name for it, but the storage that we can specifically put gear in that they gave us for Transmog Junkies.
Oh, the void storage.
The void storage. His void storage is completely filled up. His bank is completely filled up, unlike 3 characters. And his bags are filled up to the point where I couldn't mail him stuff. If I wanted to, like, switch stuff onto, like, an auction house or something like that, for any reason mail him something, I'd go on his character and log in to open the mailbox, and it's like, oh, you can't because it's full. So I'm like, okay, I'll just move some of his crap into the bank, right? No, it's full because he actually has so much stuff that he doesn't want to get rid of that he just keeps, like, 4 slots open and deletes... like those 4 trash items, and just keeps those 4 spots open all the time.
Transmog is serious business, bro. Especially weapon transmog.
Thank God for costumes, but watch, that's going to be his thing. He's just going to have every costume in the game, and he's going to have no space. Alright. So, let's see. We know about this, craft and transform armor to the Imperial style. Like they've told us this before, all Imperials will automatically know how to craft the armor, and in the game, your race, you can already craft the racial style, armor style, because in crafting there is the piece you want to make, but you can also make it in a certain style. So you go in there and you have the same piece, but in every style that you know how to make. So if you are Breton and you know how to craft the Orcish Imperial style, then you can make that, and you learn this generally by finding the books out in the world. Mm-hmm. You'll find a book that's like, you know, Orcish crafting, and now you can craft the Orcish style. So there will be an Imperial style book in the world, but Imperials will already know how to do that. So they've told us that before, but just to clarify. Now, like they said, as a member of the All-Merry Dominion, I'll be prohibited from traveling in the swamps of Blackmarsh or the deserts of Hammerfell, or will I be able to travel freely throughout Tamriel? Nick, why don't you read that?
Okay, it says, once you've completed your Alliance's zones, your character will be able to journey and explore the other Alliance territories. So your Dominion character will eventually be able to see all the sites in the game. So, seems like they're either not wanting to specify that you're going to be able to just, you know, automatically do that earlier in the game, or they're saying specifically that not until you've completed your Alliance's zones.
All right, so that's, you know, I don't think we can go. I think that, here's what I want to know. Okay, here's my question on this, and I'd like to know if you guys agree or if that's not a big deal to you. And Nick, stop squeaking your chair.
Sorry, hold on, there's a cat.
Personally, I kind of feel like, based on this, to go into another zone, you're going to have to, because it's some part of a quest line, I'm sure, once you hit 50, to be able to go. And whatever in the storyline, I haven't personally played that yet, but in whatever it is in the storyline to allow you to move on to 50 plus or 50 plus, will probably port you there. And I'm going to look through some, see if anyone's released anything. There's a lot of information that's been released since the NDA came up, so I'm sure it's out there somewhere. But I would really like to just be able to walk into the zone, but rather than port in. So, and I kind of wonder, I'm sure that if, when you do the quest, once you've done the quest, you have the option to talk to whoever or use whatever item port to. From then on, you can just use it to go there. But I would like to be able to walk in. Do you think there's any chance of that happening, either of you?
Well, I don't know. That's interesting, actually.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm a big fan of the exploring. If I want to just randomly go to Stormwind as an orc, I want to be able to do that. You know, even if I'm just gonna get my ass kicked, I just want to do it.
I can't see there not being another way.
Yeah,
I mean, it seems like, you know, it's an open world game. You know, they don't. I don't see them. Once you've unlocked the ability to go into one of those places, I don't see them invisible walling it off like that. That would be silly.
Yeah.
I hope not. I hope that there is an invisible wall that's lifted, because I still think it'd be kind of cool to be able to go to the zone even before we're level 50 and we've done whatever quest line, and maybe even if that means we get ganked, like as soon as we walk in the zone, at least it's there. But if there's an invisible wall, lift it so that if I want to run there, you know, for God knows what reason, that I would want to go out of my way and run all over the place, you know, that's my business. But if I want to, I can do it.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to see that. And then the last question, it's pretty obvious, but it's kind of funny. And I love how they answer all these questions. But will there be a way to disable the vanity pet feature? Will I be able to make my vanity pets disappear? Will they always follow me like some sort of insect attracted to a light? And they said, no matter how attractive your heroic glow is, you don't have to have a vanity pet tagging around at your heels if you don't want to. Don't use the item to summon one, and you'll be free of pesky, cute critters getting underfoot while you try to get some serious adventuring done. So, your heroic glow is not enough to keep your vanity pets tagging after you, which is also good, though. It means that the pet's not just there because your item's in the bag. You do still have to summon it, you just use the item. And I like vanity pets. I know that, Nick, you were liking the pet battle idea before.
Yep, I love
in WoW, so. And I just like to collect. I'm a collector, but I'm more of a collector of mounts. I really enjoy collecting mounts a lot.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so we have a Brian Wheeler interview here, and it's a long one. We're not going to go through everything. There's 4 pages.
Holy Christ.
Yeah, there's 4 pages of questions and answers here on MMORPG.com. Lots of interesting stuff. Some we've heard before, some we haven't. But I'd definitely check it out. Let's see. Let me go through and... While I'm doing this, Nick, why don't you show them that legalized skooma photo? We've been laughing about this for weeks, and he keeps texting it to me. And I get a laugh out of it every time.
Poof. Legalized skooma.
All right. So this first question here, if you guys go down, MMORPG says, ESO's skill system offers players a ton of options in designing their characters, but as a result, I can see it being a bit of a balance nightmare for PvP. What's your team's philosophy and approach on balance in Alliance versus Alliance? Can you talk about melee in Alliance versus Alliance? Traditionally, melee classes have a harder time here, and I can attest to that. I couldn't stand playing melee in PvP, even though, you know, even as a feral druid, because I couldn't stand chasing after everyone, especially the hunters. Just jump backward, disengage, disengage. That's the most annoying thing, or...
Yeah, it's really brutal.
Slows mages, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't stand that. And you know what? I didn't personally feel... I played the PvP. Neither of you guys got to the PvP, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, correct.
All right. For me, in the PvP, the few times that I played, the last couple tests I did, I didn't really feel like I was chasing anyone, but at the same time, I kind of realized nobody was really comfortable with their classes yet. So once people are more comfortable with their classes, we might see a lot more of that, because there is definitely lots of CC in the game. However, it's on its own cooldown based on the fact that your magicka and your stamina isn't just this huge number that you use till you drain it. It drains very quickly. It also regenerates quickly, but it does drain quickly as well. So that's a huge internal balancing right there.
True. I mean, it's, you know, I've been, you know, that ever since we started very originally talking about this game, and I remember you were telling me that they were, you know, they still haven't said particularly one way or the other, not in a long time, but you said a while back they said they're not going to do combat logs, they're not going to do any, you know, and so in return they're really not going to do much balancing. And personally, I think that's going to have to change. I've always been of the opinion that an MMO, even if you don't allow people to actually see the combat logs, they have to be there and they have to be balanced. Like, you have to balance the abilities of the characters around a number system, because if you don't, there's always going to be, we saw this in WoW, especially in Wrath, when the talent point tree was so intense back then. You're always going to have someone that just has this crazy idea of, like, no one would ever think to do it, and then all of a sudden they cannot be killed in PvP. And I think that it's going to have to come down to that eventually as well.
Alright. Well, what they've said here about the balancing is, they said one of the good things about the skill system, Brian Wheeler says this, is that a lot of it is shared across the board between all the classes, and we've seen that. I mean, the only thing that's class specific is your class trees. Yeah. And there's so many other trees and so many other ways to play that a lot of the abilities, and they're useful abilities too, they're not just miscellaneous extra things, they're viable ways to play and to really integrate, especially like all the weapon skills. So that is shared. So you do have that option, like, as far as balancing between classes go. I feel like they don't have, by doing it that way, they don't have quite as much balancing that they have to do. And I think that even if there is a gap, the rest of the skills being shared makes up that gap. I mean, as long as you are intelligently playing your class and choosing your skills. I mean, obviously, if you've put everything you have into crafting and you've got like 5 points in your skills, yeah, you're gonna get your butt kicked.
Well,
but
yeah, but that's the same in any game. You know, that's we're kind of talking from the perspective of people that know what they're doing, at least to a, you know, to a certain degree. You know, like, this isn't for, not talking about balance for, you know, the, like in WoW, the level 10 PvP bracket where, you know, it's just not possible to balance people that don't know what they're doing. But, you know, as far as, I just think that they should have, and they probably do, to be honest, some sort of a way to, at the very least, put a cap on, like, the amount of damage ability can do. Because if they have stats like crit, you know, which I'm sure they will, I haven't, that's actually one thing I didn't pay much attention to when I played, but if that plays a real heavy role, yes, I know I'm logged into your Twitch account, I don't know how that happened, now you got me all confused. What was I saying? No, nothing? Okay, well, anyway, you know what I'm trying to say.
no, he's thinking. For anyone who can't see, he's just looking like this.
I just asked you if you remember what I was saying.
You were talking about balance.
Yeah, you're talking about balancing and not being able to low-level balance people who don't know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is just... Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying. Is they need to put a max cap on stuff, I think, at the very least. Is that, you know, stats, like, I know that, again, and, you know, WoW is my MMO experience. I've played it for several years, and that's what it is the dominant MMO right now, so I think it's most relevant to compare it to. And, you know, there have been times where, in patches, where a particular class is optimized to take one stat over all others, and then they happen to line up all of the gear having mostly that stat on it. Like, mages, for instance, are really bad about this. You'll get to the point where those guys are doing the amount of damage in one ability that they should be doing in, like, 5. And I think that's one thing that could go a long way of not having to mess with this too much, but still keeping it ultimately balanced to the, you know, at least to the maximum degree of how much damage can something do. Limit that. But anyway.
Yeah, and you brought back some memories when you're talking about the little PvP. I think there's just that the very first bracket is so unbalanced. It's not even funny. And hunters are just ridiculous in that bracket. But hunters are always ridiculous, and I can't stand them. But that's just me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I do agree with them. I think that there's a lot of internal balancing that goes on here, but one thing that we won't really know until we've gone to max level PvP, because right now in the beta they scale you up, and honestly, like, all my abilities kind of felt like they hit the same in PvP, and I was level like 15. It was not, I wasn't doing, a crazy amount of damage or anything, but everything was like equal across the board, and I didn't have that wide a variety of abilities, but I was so scaled equally across that there was no way for me to know, like, really between things that I chose in PvP, like, what was going to be a more viable option than another ability was. Where on the other hand, the guards, I felt underpowered next to the guards, and I to a point that I would hope that I'm a lot more powerful at level 15. It doesn't feel the same way, because I was getting my butt kicked by the guards if I took on more than a couple at a time. So
I know I've seen, since the NDA was lifted, I've actually looked into some of the people's PvP videos, things like that, and I was thinking just earlier today and yesterday that I kind of think that Melee is going to be at a serious disadvantage. I do come from a little bit of a PvP arena background. Melee is always at a disadvantage, and in this game, it's not going to be much different, I don't think. Sure, like, Death Knights have a grip, and they, in this, Brian talks about the Melee grip that the Dragon Knight has, but that's no different than a Death Knight Death grip. And they're still at a disadvantage, and so they have to have slows, things like that, to slow the mages and the warlocks and things like that, and the hunters and stuff. And then to add on top of that, camera positioning, I think is going to be a little bit clunkier for Melee, even in third person, than it's going to be for a caster or a hunter or something like that.
I think you're right. There's going to be a lot, since there's going to be so much more importance on facing your target, like actually facing your target. That's going to be a big difference, actually, because you don't really have to be facing your target to hit them in a lot of games. So
I don't know. It's I think, I love Melee. It's pretty much all I ever play. Like I've said a million times, I play a Death Knight, and that's pretty much what I put all of my effort into, is my Death Knight. I love playing it. I know it very well, and even most of my alts are Melee, and I love playing Melee. But that being said, it is, in MMOs, it is inherently flawed. It's not as streamlined, and it's not as versatile as ranged in any way, shape, or form. In PvE and PvP, you are always at a disadvantage in Melee. It's unfortunate, but it's, in any MMO, it's always like that, and it sucks, because I really love playing Melee. But it's, if you want to, unless you're a true badass, if you want to be one of the best, you pretty much need to be playing ranged. If you want to dominate in PvP, it's going to be a lot harder to do it on a Melee than it is going to be on a ranged.
Yeah, I'd like to add something else to this. Skeeter actually mentioned something, in game. It's about grouping, pick a role and play it. And then even Brian Wheeler goes into, for Melee players, to defend the siege weapon of the people using them, defending the guys on the ramps, things like that. I could see that as an interesting role for Melee. I don't want to be in the background as a Melee. If I'm playing like a badass,
Melee
warrior,
is up there in your face. It's not a background class at all for role.
But I could see like the open combat, the outside the garrison combat being dominated by ranged, but then the inside the garrison, near the garrison, things like that, being where the little clothies hit the iron wall of the Dragon Knights or whatever, you know.
If we can stand stationary and people come to us, now all of a sudden, you know, we're not at such a disadvantage anymore. But I do agree with you about, I don't want to be in the background either. And I was reading this answer about him saying that, you know, you can do the siege weapons and the rams, or you can, you know, throw on a healing staff, and you know that's very true, and it is versatile. However, I didn't roll a Dragon Knight to put on a healing staff, and I didn't roll a Dragon Knight to be farther back than the range are. I rolled one because I wanted to get up in someone's face and chop their head off.
Yeah, I could see melee. I did get to play the Dragon Knight specifically in the beta, and I could see that class sort of taking certain talents, if you had like a pocket healer or something like that, being extremely effective because they have a lot of AoE like ticking fire damage that they can do with certain things. So maybe you can get like a big group of maybe some of the ranged around you that are enemies, and you just start igniting them on fire, and you have heavy armor, so they can't do anything. So that could be an effective strategy.
That's very true. And you know, there are I don't think that it's enough to make up for the deficit, but there are certainly advantages that you get for being a melee. Like something that I've noticed is that melee, a lot of times they can attack a lot quicker, a lot more frequently than a range can. You're not casting spells. You're just hitting that button and swinging. And you hit it again and you swing again. And, you know, I know it's a little different in this game, but it's still, compared to the casting, it's going to be quicker. You know, you're going to be more apt to be able to spam your abilities, get more off. So when you are in range, you can at least do a little more damage, but you know, still, like I said, I think the melee position as a whole is inherently flawed at this point, and it's because we've moved past patchwork style fights where you just stand there and beat up a boss. That, you know, that's
and
vanilla.
PvP is the farthest thing from patchwork that you'll ever get.
PvP, that's not even at all. But like in PvE, you know, it used to be back in, like I said, like vanilla. You just run into a room and everyone gathers around the boss and you just beat the crap out of him for 10 minutes and he's dead. Now it's like, oh, you gotta run 500 feet away and do this, and you gotta port here and do that, and you gotta catch this, and you gotta throw that, and you know, now you're talking about if you can't attack from a range, you are at a significant disadvantage.
Yeah.
All right, now there's two questions right here that I want to go into. One, they said, well, there are many that will strive to the top and become emperor. There are many fans who feel this goal is out of reach. What sort of continuous progression or goals are available in the Alliance for players who may never become emperor? And I kind of feel like I'd love to become emperor, but I'm not much of a PvPer already, so I'm going to have to learn that, and the number of people we're going to be against, it's going to be really hard to become emperor. So they say here that there are two skill lines specific to PvP, an assault and a support skill line. And there are skill lines where you can get other abilities that help you fight the war. Things that help you break out of crowd control or let you have a speed boost or drop down an area of snaring, things like that. They're not on par with the Emperor passives while someone is an Emperor, but while somebody isn't an Emperor, their passives are toned down quite a bit. But these are where you get a lot of PvP active abilities that you can put on your action slots and help you turn the tide of the war or just win a small skirmish. They're great for large-scale battles as well as small-scale battles. And what I'm seeing here, I mean, I like the idea of a lot of the Emperor stuff being passive, so that when you are Emperor, you can continue to play how you want to play your class. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm Emperor, cool, let me go run over here and switch my bar around and learn how to play the Emperor real quick and go PvP. When you're the Emperor, you can... you just have your passives and you can just go kick even more ass, which you already are kicking a lot of ass if you're Emperor to begin with, you know, with these extra passives. But I do like that the active abilities, it doesn't seem like they've really changed any active abilities. They're more utility. It doesn't seem like these would really be toned down a whole bunch when you're not Emperor. And obviously the snares, the CC, that's all really useful stuff to have, so I like that. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Well, considering I cannot find that question, so I cannot read through the answer while I'm talking, no.
I wanted to clear up something here real quick on this. Two skill lines specific to PvP that are, and these are unrelated to the Emperor, right? the assault and support skill line. Right. I didn't get to play any of the PvP stuff.
Yeah, there are. Obviously I wasn't Emperor, so I didn't get to play with them, but they should be on ESO Head. Actually, I didn't look, but I'll do that right now.
Are those Emperor specific skill lines, or are they anyone who's playing PvP gets those two?
No, see, these are Emperor specific. Like they've already told us that once you become Emperor, you get your own skill lines. So.
Right.
All right, so I like that, like the actives. I mean, it just depends on how good they are, if we would actually bother to put them on our bar. I mean, for getting that achievement, you think they'd be good enough to consider putting on your bar. They're not just meh items, you know what I mean? I think it obviously depends on your class, too, and how you play. Like, do you already have a lot of these options available, or are these maybe something that you didn't have and now you do? And I'd also like to know, there's skill lines, that's going to take points, so I feel like that's why they have the passives. I think the passives, when you're Emperor, you don't have to put points in them. Obviously, they're just there, whereas your normal Emperor skill line, maybe you have to build that up yourself.
Yeah.
And Dark Boo, DRK Boo, said in the chat room, I heard there might have a few shorter duration campaigns in order to have it available to more people. I like that idea, but at the same time, I don't want everyone to have it. What do you guys think? That's touchy.
I like the prestige of the position of hitting Emperor, but I do kind of like the idea of maybe shorter duration campaigns to introduce everyone in the world to them. But I could also see an argument for just throwing everyone just here's the big deal, the real deal, all up front, figure it out. I like that kind of stuff, and give it a little bit more of an epic feel instead of the hand-holding.
I mean, it does feel epic right now. I mean, if you're in a campaign, I mean, even if it was just a couple hundred people, but much less if you're hitting 1,000 or more people, that is a huge deal. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Like, it seems incredibly intimidating to somebody like me, but then, you know, to someone like you, that probably doesn't seem nearly as intimidating. So.
Yeah.
Something that may actually be possible depending on your campaign. And there's going to be lots of campaigns. I just want to say, when I was in this last beta, they had a lot of campaigns up initially. And then they pulled them down because with the amount of people in the beta, they wanted to really focus it because the campaigns were empty, especially in the beginning. So they pulled those down, but there was already a large number. And I'm assuming that's only a fraction of what will be at launch. So. Now, the second question I want to go into here is, can you touch on the Emperor armor set at all? Is it mostly a visual thing, or is it a powerful armor set? And we learned before that it was a costume, so we already know it's a visual thing. But what I want to get into here is basically, right at the end here of his answer, Brian Wheeler says, you can wear it anytime you're Emperor within your campaign. So I'm going to take that as when you're not Emperor, you don't get to wear the costume. So I kind of wish you could keep that, because it's pretty cool.
I think you get to keep it. I just don't think
but you can't wear it.
And that makes sense, because the Emperor the Emperor looks like the Emperor. So when you're not Emperor, you can't be running around looking like the Emperor.
Yeah, it makes sense, definitely. Like, I like the idea of seeing, if you could recognize it, obviously, the concept art for it was really neat. We haven't seen the armor itself, but I mean, I'd like to look over and be like, that guy's the Emperor. I know he's the Emperor. At the same time, it's really cool, and I'd kind of like to keep it if I ever got it, but...
Yeah. Well, I think, it would be kind of cool if you... just a tiny little thought. Doesn't really make any sense, but it'd be kind of cool if you become Emperor, right? And then you're not Emperor anymore, but the item you still have the costume slot, but then you can wear it, but it's kind of like a degraded looking, like maybe like a musty, moth-eaten version of the Emperor's clothing. So it's like, I was once the Emperor or something. That'd be kind of cool.
I could see that.
That is really cool. I think ZeniMax should listen to that and take that from us.
Or another thing they could do is, just for the sake of showing your prestige, depending on how hard it may be to get to become Emperor, I think it'd be all right allowing us to wear it outside of a PvP battle, because that's the only time I feel like it it really would matter if people, you know what I mean, like running around looking like the Emperor, and because that can change people's strategies, that can change a lot of stuff. I'm assuming, especially because I think you're going to be pretty OP when you're Emperor. I mean, it's not going to be, obviously ridiculous, but it'll almost be ridiculous. So I think that they should allow you to wear it, at least in certain areas or in home cities, something just because, who doesn't want to show that off?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like one of those things, like I said, in PvP, I get it, and I like the idea of looking over and knowing that's the Emperor, but at the same time, I do like to show stuff off. I've always liked gear to show off, mounts to show off, pets to show off. I mean, that's half the point of them, so...
I can see a good little workaround being the title system. If you become Emperor, you get Emperor title or something, and then maybe over 3 years there are 100 people who have ever gotten that title or something. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I could see that. Or like a mount. That would be so awesome if you got the Emperor's steed or something like that. Because that's another thing that that wouldn't necessarily confuse people or have any effect on gameplay whatsoever. That's just purely a look what I got because I'm a badass.
Actually, I'm on ESO Head right now, and I'm looking at the passives as they stand for the Emperor, and I'm assuming this is what they look like while you're Emperor, not otherwise. This increases ultimate gains by 200% and decreases ultimate costs by 5%. For former Emperors, decreases ultimate costs by 5%. So you don't get the ultimate gains, but 200% is huge.
Yeah, that's insane.
And then increases health, magicka, and stamina by 100% while in your campaign.
What?
Ooh, that is awesome.
So 1v1 versus the Emperor is going to be something
like impossible.
Sick. Like if you can pull him down, you're going to be a badass.
And if you're already a boss, you're just going to roll through everybody.
Yeah.
And then this one increases the magnitude of healing effects on Emperors by 50% and on former Emperors by 1%. So that's pretty much worthless if you're not currently the Emperor, but...
Hey, whoa. Listen, how many times, especially in PvE, have we wiped on 100k, and if the tank had 1 more percent, we were down that? You bet you've watched. That's going to save some people's asses. I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. And this last one here is Tactician. Increases siege weapon damage by 100%. For former Emperors, increases siege weapon damage by 2%. And I'm going to say right now, those siege weapons hit hard. Even at the walls, the walls, it's really balanced. It goes down at a pretty slow rate, but when you're getting hit by them as a player, it hurts. 100%, that'd be like... when I'm Emperor, if I ever get there, I'm just going to roll around a siege weapon. I'm just going to shoot people.
Destroy people.
I wish you can't have the siege weapons outside of keep areas, but if you could, that'd be pretty awesome. I just roll around in one. Not that there's any moving. It's not a war game. You don't have tanks, but, it's a fun thought. So, actually, Anna, your question here, they really wrapped that up. There's actually a skill line when you become Emperor. Is that right? It's the only active while you're Emperor, or do you get to keep it? And they said once you're Emperor, you get the skill line unlocked automatically, and you can spend skill points in it just like you can any other skill line. The passive abilities you get from being Emperor are way more effective while you're Emperor in your campaign. Now, it says if you get deposed or you leave your campaign, and let's say you join someone else in their campaign while you're still Emperor, you will have the same abilities, but they will be very heavily muted. They won't have the same effectiveness, but you're not wasting skill points by taking these abilities so far. You're still going to have some passive effects whether you're an Emperor or an ex-Emperor, which is a title, by the way. Oh my gosh, I want the ex-Emperor title.
That's funny.
Ex-Emperor. Alright, so you can switch campaigns. Basically, you have a home campaign, you have a guest campaign. And you can switch your guest campaign every 24 hours, I believe. And I don't think it has a cost either. So if you have a friend you want to play with on that day, you can go switch with them. Wow.
That's you.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was muted.
All right. And there is a third page here. There's nothing much more on the interview, but they're talking mostly about PvP here. And there's the one last thing actually I did want to talk about and speculate a little bit. They said The Imperial City itself cannot be entered at this time. It's intentional for players to be able to enter the Imperial City at some point. And Brian Miller says it's intentional that you can't enter the Imperial City at this time. That's all I'll say about it right now. And that's, we already know, and I was reading something, and someone actually has an email about this. They had a question about arenas, and I remember reading a while back, they had commented that someday, not at launch, not even promised, but it is possible that we are going to have, you know, the arena from Oblivion that was in the Imperial City. Well, we're going to be able to have that. So basically, arena in ESO in the Imperial City. And I don't know how the systems would work or anything, but it is a possibility someday if people want it. And I want to see that happen really bad. But what I was thinking about here is it's not open yet, but do you think we're going to have some kind of event? I mean, when you're in beta, you're in Cyrodiil, I went over there, and you can see, obviously, you know, the Imperials, they're worshiping Molag Bal, they're holed up in the Imperial City, and you go, and they're just, they're all over the place. Daedra, out by the gates, huge, massive Daedra, bigger than anything that we actually, like, that I fought personally in the game, even like at the Dark Anchors, just massive Daedra, sitting like over like a broken bridge to the Imperial City. Like, the bridge is broken, and you can't swim across the water, guys. Don't try and swim across the water. You will get devoured by slaughterfish. The first time this happened to me, I was just like, oh, let me swim across this little river. You can swim across some rivers, but not all of them. And I'm just like, do-do-do-do-do, and I was eaten by fish. Actually, when this happened, 20 people were eaten by fish, because this was on my first beta test, and we all decided to cross the river, and we all got eaten. And then, like, the 2 people who didn't get eaten were just cracking up behind us. So, and they, since then, they've made them more potent, so I guess some people were speed swimming across, so that's the last thing we're going to cover here in the Brian Wheeler interview. Take a look at it. It's pretty cool. Like I said, lots of PvP information, so. And then, this is the best part. I really wanted to get to this part, so we are. The discussion topic, which is the beta. Our beta gameplay this last weekend, and for me, the last 3 weekends that I played. We've got a lot of listed topics here that we're going to go over, and we can talk a bit about it. So the first one is character creation, which is undoubtedly one of the best parts of the game. And Andrew, what do you think about the character creation?
I tried to, I'm one of the kind of guys that'll sit there on the character creation screen and just agonize over the tiniest freaking detail for an hour, you know? But I did realize when I was playing the beta that I had a limited amount of time, so I tried to kind of breeze through it, or what for my speed would be seriously breezing through it, but it still took me like 30 minutes. Just looking at every little option. I didn't necessarily manipulate every option, but I definitely checked them all out. At least, you know, expanded all the little sub things and stuff like that. And it is, let me tell you, it is extensive. You can change anything. And I really like that, because I don't want, you know, in WoW there are what, like, per race there are like 7 haircuts each, you know. That gets old to me. I want to be, I don't want to run into any other character, or very rarely run into another character that looks exactly like me. And I think that's definitely going to be a very rare occurrence.
Yeah, I mean, even just the facial structure and your, if you add facial structure to your hair, to your markings, your scars, to your height, now you're just, you know what I mean? You've got a huge range of things. I mean, the height slider, I love that. You don't see that enough in games, and I love a height slider, because I like little tiny people. So, Nick, what did you think about the character creation? Because I know that's probably what you played with the most, because you didn't get nearly as much time as we did.
Yeah, oh man, it was...
No, he's gone. Is he gone?
Who?
He's right there. Okay. He's talking, and I can't hear him.
Me?
Oh, I can
Is your mic muted?
No.
Is your Skype muted?
No. You can hear me, right, Andrew?
Yeah, I can hear you, Nick.
Okay, well, anyways.
Can't hear me.
Character creation was just immense. I mean, God, there was just so much to do. Like like we've been talking about. It's oh man, it's gonna be very rare for you to run into some. It's gonna be actually, you know, like realism, like different races. They all look very similar, just like in real life, but not, you know, they're all also very different. And I think that's going to be exactly the same in this game. It's going to be, you know, the little details are going to make people look so much different, and I really, really enjoy that. I probably played around with character creation because I've actually played in 3 beta weekends too. Megan doesn't think that I've played very much, but I've played more than she thinks I have. And I've probably played with that character creation for like 3.5 hours grand total, because I've made one of every single race that I just went through there and just tried to flush out as many options as I could, and I was very, very impressed with it, which, you know, this is an Elder Scrolls game, so it's not hard, you know, it's very easy to believe.
All right. I mean, that was one of my favorite things. The first beta weekend that I played a lot back in September was a stress test. And I spent so much time, and this got really frustrating because I am OCD about a lot of stuff, and character creation is one of those. And you only get to make your character once, so unless in the future you get to change it. But I will sit there for hours and tweak little stuff, and just, especially with over when you got into your facial features, you had all your sliders and all your options, but then you had that little triangle that you moved it around, and you switched it from heroic to soft to angular. And then after I got all my features done, I think I spent most of my time on that, even because shifting it even a little bit changed the face so much, and that's it. A lot more options for looking individual. So, but my first beta weekend was a stress test, and I ended up making my character. I think I spent 10 minutes the first time in character creation, and then it crashed. I got disconnected from the server. And so I went back in, and I started making my character again. I spent like 15 minutes disconnected from the server. This happened to me 4 times, and you'd think I would just create a random character so I could play the game. But no, I just kept making my character over and over again. And so I finally got in. This was like a 4-hour test. Like, we didn't have much time, but I spent a lot of it in character creation. So I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of the strongest points in the game, personally. So the next one is starter zones, and this includes Cold Harbor and the starting island that you're on. I personally wasn't too impressed with them. I kind of feel that the old Merry Dominion, they have the least. They've got the Skyrim one, and maybe it's because when you're in Skyrim, that's really familiar. We've played that. And so recently, you know what I mean, that it was less interesting. Say the stories were good, but it's just really streamlined, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't say everything's handed to you on a platter, but I'd like to see them not exist. Personally, maybe extend Cold Harbor a little bit, add some more stuff, make it more interesting than it is. Cold Harbor's really quick. And then just nix the starter islands altogether. Obviously, it's too late for that now, but I feel like we talked about a little bit about this last week as well, that some people aren't going to make it through the starter zones. And yeah, it's only like 6 levels, but some people are going to put the game down, the Elder Scrolls people specifically, are going to not make it through. And I've seen a lot of people say that they, you know, oh, I played 30 minutes and I logged off. And the outlook on the game has been generally very positive. There's not a lot of this, especially since the NDA lifted. People are excited. Fan sites are popping up everywhere, but there are those people. And if they got rid of the starter zones or connected them to the mainland or something, that would be a lot better, I think, personally.
Yeah,
that
would be cool to extend Cold Harbor just a little bit and then nix the islands. But I'm kind of at the viewpoint, like, if you're going to pay minimum $50-$60 for a game and potentially, you know, $100, you know, for the Imperial Edition, you know, and you're not going to play for more than 3 hours before you make a judgment on a game, like, then get out of here, basically. You know, I don't get that kind of mindset. Like, it's just way worth my money to at least give it a chance, you know, and just get off the island. That's just me. But I don't think that happens. I think that's a really small minority of players who do that, and they just happen to be the vocal ones.
Yeah. Well, like, so that's, for me, like, I was not as impressed. I think I definitely enjoyed it, though. I mean, when I played the Star Zone, I still enjoyed it, and I was already going to play the game, you know what I mean? And I think for me, a lot of it, too, was like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm in Strauss Mackay. This is awesome. I've only ever heard about this place. And I had a lot of that going on, like, running around, like it's something out of a fantasy novel that you've always wanted to see, and now you can. So for me, I mean, I'm used to the concept of a starter zone anyways. But for people who aren't, like, so that was kind of a meh. The game really opens up after those starter zones. It's a lot, there's just a lot more to do, a lot more quests available, and a lot of directions you can just run off, and you can find things to do. The exploration, I feel, is really what the starter areas are lacking. Nick, any thoughts on the starting zones for you?
Well, I said this last week, I'm pretty sure, and I'll say it again. I completely think that they have absolutely no choice but to have, like, the first 10 levels be hand-holding. For a few reasons. One of them is because they are, especially for this game, they are going to be bringing in a lot of people. The majority of their base probably is going to be people that don't do MMOs as much. You know, these are going to be single player RPG committed players that they may not have ever played an MMO. And yes, it's a, you know, a game is a game is a game, and it's kind, you know, it's similar, but like I said, I think I made this rant last week, but that it's very expansive. MMOs are just so much more expansive than other games, and I just know that, like, to me, yeah, I think, okay, sometimes it gets quite redundant, where it's like, okay, yes, I get it, this is common sense, but I can't even tell you how many times in WoW I've run into people that are doing stuff that I'm just like, what? Like, how do you think that is the right thing to be doing? And they see no problem with it. They think they're doing it the right way, and it's because nobody or nothing has ever, you know, they've never been taught differently. And, you know, I think that, especially since, like I said, a lot of people are going to be coming into this game that are Elder Scrolls fans, not necessarily MMO players, and that could, you know, it's going to turn some people off, because some people are ridiculous. Like, I'm with Anu on this, that if you're gonna, even if you get a game for free, if you write it off before you get out of the starting zone, you're a jackass, in my opinion. That's just, you know, there's no reason to be that close-minded. If there's really strong evidence to point that it's going to be like that for the entire game, then okay, maybe I can see not playing for too much longer, but you really can't know until you try. So I don't know. I am completely opposed to them shortening or taking these starting zones out, because this is not only a new game altogether, but it's kind of got some revolutionary systems as far as the MMO world goes, and people haven't played with these before, and I think that they need to teach us the basics. Even, you know, even myself, like, a lot of that starting zone is also having the chance to play around with the skill tree. It's having the chance to pick what kind of weapons you're going to use. And I've been playing MMOs for several years, and I actually enjoyed the hand-holding explanation, because it told me what I should be doing. So that's rant over again.
Nice rant. Okay, I have just one point. You said it last week, and I didn't say anything because you kept talking, and it kind of is mine. But I have to say it now. I don't care if you disagree with me, but MMOs are expansive, but they're not more expansive than Elder Scrolls. That is Bullshit. When you get out into Elder Scrolls, everything just blows up. And for someone who doesn't know how to play the game, rather than like, at least like with MMOs, it's like, here's a quest, and here's a quest, and there's like an icon above the quest giver's head, so you know there's a quest. And I kind of feel like when I first played Elder Scrolls, and Skyrim was my first, I had no fucking clue what I was doing. I just walked out of the cave, and the dude was like, okay, see you later. You should go to this town. Wait, what town? Where's it at? Oh, it's like 20 miles away. Like, I don't know. That's my little rant.
I don't disagree with you at all. I'm not saying that it's at the beginning more expansive, but MMOs are constantly evolving. They're constantly expanding. So it's inevitable that there is going to be more to an MMO that has been running for 10 years than a single-player RPG that came out with maybe as much content and as much expansiveness, and then it had two expansion packs in 2 years, but then it's done. That's it. There's no more ever added to that game after that. Whereas an MMO, 10 years down the line, you have to know where the game started and where it's at now, which are, I mean, that's a huge chasm. Look at WoW. I mean, you wouldn't even recognize that game today if you had been playing in vanilla and came back right now. It's different. I mean, I do agree with you, though, that it's particularly in the field of Elder Scrolls, yes, they are hugely expansive games, but I also think that they don't do enough hand-holding at the beginning, because I understand the point is exploration and finding out yourself, but at least get me started, at least, you know, something. But that's one of the reasons that I haven't been too much, you know, into really getting into the game, because I don't feel like stumbling around like an idiot for 2 days.
Spoken like an MMO gamer, that's all I have to say.
That's what I am.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
If you had trouble finding your way around in Skyrim as your first Elder Scrolls game, imagine what your first one, if your first one was Morrowind, like mine.
Oh god, I mean, Morrowind didn't tell you anything. It was just like, walk off the boat, walk through the guy's office, and, oh, your map's not filled out. You don't have a quest pointer. Yeah. You don't have anything.
Yeah,
so.
You don't know where you are. You don't know what's going on. Yeah.
And then you walk down the street and a guy falls out of the sky.
Yeah. I would like to say, though, about the expansive nature of, like, Elder Scrolls games versus MMO games. I think maybe map size, exploration content, things like that, maybe they're equivalent, like, at launches and things like that. But maybe where MMOs are more expensive is in the depth and the complication of some of the systems. Like, there's no doubt the crafting system in the Elder Scrolls Online is significantly more expansive than the crafting system in Skyrim, right? We can all agree on that. The skill lines and the skill points and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and racial points and stuff like that in the Elder Scrolls Online, significantly more expansive than the little star map thing from Skyrim. So in that sense, the MMOs are definitely more expansive. And then trying to understand, like, I don't know. We know all this.
We do. Here's what I want. Email us and tell us Elder Scrolls versus MMO. And everything we just talked about, give us your opinion on that. I want to know.
You know what? One thing I will say that, and I not that it's more expansive, because I think it's kind of hard to quantify that term. Maybe I'm using the wrong term for what I'm trying to say. But anyway, is trying to figure out how to arrange your freaking abilities and have quick access to them in the single-player RPG games is so irritating to me, when I'm used to just having an action bar that I've got my freaking Naga and I've got my action bar and I just 1 through 12 it, and just, you know, it is so much more difficult to set up that whole system that they've got to have quick access to your abilities, and like Skyrim is, you know, the one I've seen the most of. It's, oh man, I'll give you that one. They definitely have a more complicated system for that.
Well, here's what my closing thought on starter zones here is that I think that when we talked about, okay, keep the hand holding. People need it. People are stupid. We've cleared that up. That's everyone's opinion. There are stupid people out there who need it. No offense if you're a stupid people, but yeah, it needs to be there.
Stupid. They won't know you're talking about them.
Add more exploration to it then. Not increase the size, just some more cookies here and there, so to speak. A little bit more of that appeal that I really do see in the other zones where you're finding stuff all over the place, kind of scattered around. Just add a little bit more of that, okay. And that's just what I think.
Hold on a second. I just have one word.
One word
to say to you. This is why they should have that. Is Fraser Crane. That's all I have to say to you.
What if he hears this? Oh my God, you can't say that.
Sure I can. He doesn't like us anymore, remember?
You can't say that.
Anyway.
We're gonna get hate mail. He's gonna hear us, and he's gonna give us hate mail. Then he's gonna post up on forums about us. And what have you done?
Whatever, bro. Okay.
Someone's gonna tell him.
I don't care.
Andrew, tell them this was a bad idea. He can't say that.
I don't know. I would rather as an experienced MMO player suffer through the shitty starting zone that's so ridiculously easy you just want to die when you're doing it. I would rather suffer through that than suffer through the amount of imbeciles that would be running around with no idea what they were doing. And, none whatsoever. Of course, there's still going to be people that don't have any idea what they're doing, but at least they'll know that they have a skill tree. At least they'll know that they have abilities. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of stuff that, it sounds unrealistic that people would actually not know stuff like that, but I have seen people that in WoW, they don't know they have a talent tree. They're level 90 and they have 0 talent points in their talent tree.
That just boggles my mind right now.
And it's like, what? But that's what, that's why I just think that, especially because a lot of young people are going to be playing this game just like any game. And that's another thing is that, we are just being adults in general. We're just more intuitive, and kids, they're not necessarily as intuitive about that stuff. I don't know. I've just always had I'm not going to like levels 1 through 10, whether it's a hand-holding or not, because it's easy and because it's just kind of boring. You're not really into the story yet. At least that's the way it's been for most of my MMOs. Elder Scrolls is different, but still, any MMO player will tell you leveling, it's inconsequential after you level your first character. You just want to blow through it as fast as you can and get to end game. So I just don't see, big deal. Put some hand-holding in there. I think it's great.
All right. And, we'll move on to the next one here, but I just want to say it's a perfect example of that. It's easy in your starting zone. Is Cold Harbor is the ultimate easy. I mean, you get into combat like 1 or 2 times. But I had somebody whisper me, a friend of mine, and he was like, he starts playing and he makes his character and he gets in, and I'm playing on my character from the previous beta, so I was in Cyrodiil. But he was just like, are you supposed to one-shot your first mob? And like, I swear, keep playing the game. Just keep going. That's the ultimate hand-holding there. Well, how to hit your mob.
Honestly, I think that Cold Harbor is as much about story arc as it's more about telling you hey guys, this is what the story's about. Here we are, here's why we're here, this is the bad guy. Okay, now we're gonna start playing the game. I think that people are kind of Cold Harbor's easy because I don't think you're meant to learn how to play there. I think you're meant to see some story there, but they didn't want to just put a giant cutscene in, so they did, made you do a little running, made you pick up a weapon, made you look at some guy funny and he fall over dead, whatever.
All right, so the next one is the zones after the starting areas, and that, coming from and someone's in the chat room, you wouldn't feel that way if it wouldn't feel impressed if it wasn't easy to begin with. And I do want to say real quick, the starting areas visually I did feel kind of impressed, especially like Stros Mackay, because everything was just massive and I was really tiny. And so I did have that kind of, I was impressed with that. Immediately, I liked the look of the world. But coming into your first zone after your starting islands is, it just, the game opens up. It's huge, you know, you have a real settlement, a city, you've got quests all over the place, and you open up your map and the zone is gigantuous. And I was really impressed with the zones as a whole. I've played through most of the Daggerfall one, but I've played completely through all the content for the 1 to 17 that we have available in the beta test that I've done for both of the other ones. And what I'll say Old Mary's my favorite is because it's gorgeous. I mean, when you go to Old Mary Dominion's first zone, it's beautiful, and it's because of all the trees, and it looks a lot like the concept art. I mean, there's flowers and trees and pretty colors everywhere, whereas Morrowind is really ashy. Yep, Morrowind's really ashy, which is not too much of a surprise, but it's also very foreign, unfamiliar, and I just really love the field areas, and I found the quests to be really interesting. As soon as I got in there, I was immersed in what I was doing. So, what about you, Anu?
Yeah, I did the Daggerfall stuff, and to me, I love the Redguard, or kind of like really harsh, deserty, ashy like areas. That to me is pretty and like impressive and stuff like that. So that's kind of why I did that on the beta. And I just really was interested in playing a Redguard and seeing how they felt. I love the questing. I love the zones. I was coming from WoW. I was extremely impressed, obviously, with the graphics quality and things like that. And then I think we touched on it last week, but I'm not sure. My frame rates were great. Like, I do have a really great computer, but my frame rates were really good. So there's definitely some serious optimization. So even on a low-end machine, the game, you know, on lower settings is going to run just fine, and it'll still look great.
Up to a point. I mean, I saw pictures that was low graphics versus high graphics, and I just want to puke when I saw the low graphics. It's pretty bad. But I mean, even on my computer, which is mediocre at best, it still looks really good. And you know what? I can see a difference, I'll say, like, between my computer on high and that computer, which we play at ultra, but that computer on high, I can still see a difference, but the game looks good. I played the beta for the first time on this computer. So I definitely think that graphics-wise, most people are going to be able to play it. I did see some pictures that popped up on Reddit. Someone sent me a link to where on low graphics you can like see through mountains and a whole bunch of other glitches. So they do have some work on that, but I'm sure that now that people have pointed that out, that's going to get fixed before. Yeah. So, all right. The next is the questing. Story, voiceover, your immersion in the quests in general, how well written they were, how interesting they were. Nick, what do you think? What were your impressions for the beta?
Oh, man. Well, I didn't do a whole lot of out-in-the-world questing. I only got to, like, level 12. So I was out of the starting zone for a while, but I was honestly just running around exploring and killing things most of the time after I got out of the starting zone. As far as the story goes, I'm a humongous lore nerd, and everything in every game I play, in you know, if I get started reading a book series, if I, you know, a movie series, if I see the right documentary, I will go and do research on these things for no reason, for hours and hours at a time. So I am really...
This guy spoils everything because he reads ahead of time, and I get so mad at him. What's the point of reading it or watching it? You already know what happens.
Exactly. I don't need to. I just want to know what happens. Anyway, I love the story. I think I'm gonna really, really, really enjoy the watching this story progress, because, you know, like you guys, you guys didn't like, or at least you, Megan, didn't like Cold Harbor. I loved it. I thought it was awesome, just because I loved the, that as soon as you're dropped into the world, it's like, hey, you're the center of this story, and like, here's what's going on, and you're gonna help us do this, like, right now. Like, I loved it. It's just such a cool story. And as far as immersion goes, I need to play more to really give a good opinion on that. I have been crazy busy with work on most all of the weekends that we've had beta keys. I've been getting up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to play for 2 hours before I go to work, but it's just, I haven't got to play as much as I would like to, but I plan on remedying that soon. And the voiceovers, I love the voiceovers. I'm a big fan of anything that you're going to do to make my game better. I'm a fan of that, and voiceovers are one of the things that make it more interesting for me to play. It makes the questing more interesting, and maybe, you know, it'll take me a little while longer to get totally tired of the leveling zone.
Alright, and you know what? I did like Cold Harbor. I just thought that it was incredible. Obviously, it needed to be like, it was very streamlined, and the first time I played, I got lost in Cold Harbor. That shouldn't be possible. But I got lost. You know, in Cold Harbor, you got to this point where you need to, right in the very beginning, you get out, you've escaped your cell, you've met the giant lady, who I'd like to give props, by the way, to ZeniMax real quick for that. When I first played the beta, what's her name? The half-giant, and her name's not coming to me right now. But that you meet, and she's with you all the way up until you leave Cold Harbor. She was more giant-y, I guess I should say. The first time I played the game, her face was a bit gruffer, and her voice was really low and really manly, and it was okay. Because, I mean, she's part giant. She's a Nord who's got giant blood in her, so they say. But I was laughing about it. Maybe that's mean, or you can't really be mean if you're talking about a game character, right? But I was laughing about it the whole time, and I was kind of distracted by it, and they fixed it. In the last 2 beta tests, her voice is just a little lighter, and she's a little prettier, but she's not pretty. She's not super girly or anything, or even womanly. She's still like a half giant, but they improved her, and props to that. And you know what? The crazy dude that plays the guitar, and you talk to him in Cold Harbor, he's awesome. So there's definitely things I like about Cold Harbor, just not...
That guy was hilarious.
I did all the quest text. Yeah. And gave all the extra options just to listen to him. But, alright, so what do you think about the questing then, Anu?
You guys have said a lot, but I just wanted to throw in one little quick thing. I know... After Cold Harbor, I was like, okay, this is starting area, I get it, blah, blah, blah. Let me just try to rush through this. And I guess to their credit, I was at, you know, the Stros Mackay, or however you say it, that little starter island, and I was trying to rush through it, but I kept getting caught up in some of the quests. So that's a good little immersion thing. I kind of cared, you know. I was like, well, let me just focus on this one real quick, because this one's kind of cool, you know, and that's a good thing. Like, I was trying to rush through it, but then I couldn't even bring myself to do it.
Coming from an MMO side, too, where, like I said, it's in-game. Even as interesting and good as the game is, it's in-game, you actually... And that's what I want to see, is care. Because I'm going to be completely honest. There's some that I do, but for most of the quests in WoW, and I think it helps that it's voiced over, because I don't want to take the time to read all the quests in WoW, but I get... I care about them, but I don't care in the MMOs usually. I don't give a crap. And so you want to care about the game, care about the story, care about the characters. I think that's extremely important for a good game. I mean, this is an MMO, but like The Last of Us, which I still say is one of the best games ever made, and I wish I still had my PS3 so I could play the new DLC, but beside the point, I cared about the characters. I cared about what happened. I was immersed in it, in the story, because I cared about the characters, and that is what made that game one of the best games I've ever played. It was because I truly cared, and I was sold on the game within the first 5 minutes because I was moved. And I want to see that, and I know with an MMO there is so much more story, so much more questing you have to get through, so to have that right off the bat, even in a starting area, to care I think it's a pretty big deal. So, the next thing I'll talk about is the combat. Nick, why don't you talk about the combat? When you stop typing crap about me in chat, then you can talk about the combat whenever you want, you know.
The combat. Well, again, same thing. I want to play more of this game and really flesh this out, because I was paying a lot more attention to the world, to the graphics, to the story, to the to everything else that was new to me. The combat, I loved it. It was really, really fleshed out, and I looked through the skill trees, and I mean, they're just so expansive, and that is amazing. Like, I love choices, and I love the being able to make your abilities stronger, and it's nice, but I need to play the game more to form a true opinion on it, because I have not actually played this game much. I've done what I feel like is a lot, but I've only gotten this far into the game, and that I like, though, because that's the kind of game that I think I'm going to enjoy at least my first couple of leveling experiences on this game, and that's important to me, because I've tried to get into a couple of MMOs that have come out, and I can't, because I am so tired of the leveling crap that I can't even start playing a new game anymore half the time. And this one, though, I feel like I'm going to be able to do it, because it's new and it's different, and they're making it they're kind of making it worth my while to put the effort in.
All right, Annie?
Yeah, I just want to touch on what Nick was saying right there at the end, the leveling. Right when Final Fantasy: A Realm Reborn came out, I ended up getting that, and then maybe made it level 20, and I just couldn't do it. I was like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to level. I'm sick of it. The same thing that happened in Star Wars, the Old Republic. I tried it a little bit in Rift, and I just could not do it. I was like, I can't get to the end game because I don't care. I don't care enough. And I did not feel that during my beta play, so that's good. But then about the combat, I love the combat. Like, a lot of games are trying to do, interesting things with combat, innovative things with combat, and that's good. That's good for the community as a whole. What, Evan? Oh god,
Megan's gonna break my fingers apparently.
But so Terra had some interesting skill-based combat stuff. A lot of the newer MMOs have some interesting play there. But I really like what's going on with the Elder Scrolls combat system. I did the Dragon Knight thing. The melee I felt powerful. I felt when I swung my little dual wield axes that I was really swinging some meaty axes, things that were really chopping in. It was a lot of fun. But that's pretty much all I have to say.
All right, I think I enjoy the combat a lot, and I feel like it's true Elder Scrolls combat. Yeah, he's in for it. He's going to get it for that one, but it's true Elder Scrolls combat, and I like that, and I feel that was an important thing, because in MMO, in a game, in almost any game, what do? You fight. That's, it's combat. You fight mobs. So that's one of the number one things about a game. And so when you play Elder Scrolls, a lot of it's story and everything, but one thing that's going to be familiar to people, because what you are doing most in the game is fighting. So that's going to be that instant, this is familiar to me, this feels the same. And that's going to have that instant pull for people. So I really like that they kept it the same. The only thing that I would have to say, it's improved a lot. In my first couple tests, it seemed kind of floaty, and there wasn't a lot of impact. And I've seen some improvements on that, and I'd like to see them improve that more. I mean, in Skyrim, the combat's just visceral. Like, when you hit a mob, it can stagger back. You can almost through your controller or through your keyboard feel your sword or your weapon coming in contact, if you're playing melee at least, with the mob. And that was really floaty in my first few tests, and now that's definitely improved a lot, and I like it. Oh my goodness, guys. I think that's they've improved on that a lot, and I'm definitely okay with how it is now. If they could improve it more, even better. But, you know, cutting in there real quick, you guys should really join us in the chat room who don't listen. Who don't listen to us live, we have a lot of fun, and the chat room is more fun than we are, I think. But anyways, my one thing, though, is the bow. I don't know, Anu, did you pick up a bow at all during your play?
I did, very, very briefly. I did pick it up.
I don't like it.
And I did, really? I kind of felt interested in it.
I feel like it's just kind of hard to control. Like, I feel like I don't get a lot of distance out of it, and the hit, it's not doing as much as if I'm using, say, a staff or a sword. I feel like I'm not getting as much damage out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't really happy with. They've improved that too, but that's something that the bow is a little bit clunky. It just feels clunky to use, and I'd like to see that improve. Did you feel like it was clunky at all?
I didn't feel like it was really clunky at all. And I could kind of see that maybe with a couple of skill points in it, because what I did find was I'd get one shot off. You know, maybe I wasn't able to sneak or whatever, and I'd get one shot off, and then they would rush me, and I couldn't get enough distance to really shoot them from a distance because they would be up in melee range. But I did kind of think that maybe there were skill points that were like you shoot them and it slows them or it snares them, things like that, and that would really help with maybe a little bit of the tactics, like the bow tactics.
Yeah, and you see, I didn't play with the skill trees for it at all. I just, I just was using your white hits. I wasn't playing, and so I think like with abilities, I could enjoy that a lot more. But definitely, did you try a bow, Nick, at all in any of your characters?
I tried it for about 2 minutes, and then I was like, "Screw this! I'm going back to my dual-wield axes." I'm really like how they were saying in that interview, you know, and I know this is an Elder Scrolls thing, and I'm gonna have to get used to it because it's gonna be probably required of us in in-game stuff. But the versatility, I'm not used to that. When I roll a melee character, I melee with it. I don't range with it. When I roll a range character, I range. When I roll a healer, I heal. And when I roll a tank, I tank. It's just, I was like, I don't feel right using a bow on this dragon.
You're going to get kicked out of our raid team because you're just not going to do enough. You're just going to be too streamlined. We're going to have to kick you out.
That's what I'm saying is I'm going to have to get used to it because I know that, especially when it comes to on-the-fly stuff, that's going to be really important in this because that versatility is really going to make, you know, utilizing that versatility, a team that utilizes it well, that's going to make or break teams, and that's going to make you one of the best or just mediocre, I think. So that's going to be a really interesting, cool thing for me to learn how to do, but when I was playing the beta, I was just like, nope, can't do it.
Yeah, I definitely, and I do think that, like you said, the team, that's going to be a huge skill gap if you can switch in the middle, and this makes, I mean, I remember on my druid, hero bearing a situation. You know, the tank died. We've got 5% left. Go bear form, and I can tank. You know, this last 5%. I can tank this last 10%, or even half a fight, 1 or 2 times. Just depends on the fight and what the mechanics are. And now that's not just a druid thing, a hero bear thing. I think that people who know how to play their class well are going to be able to pull off that shit, they're dead, let's take over that role. They're going to be able to pull that off a lot more, and I think that's going to be a useful skill. I mean, what's going to happen, you're in a fight, and, you know, your raid leader, someone goes down, you're like, oh crap, you do this, and they're like, I don't know how to do that, I can't do that, like, you don't want that. And I think people who can on the fly change like that, and they're prepared to, that will make a huge difference.
I have a question.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
I know that it's based on the skill tree a lot, but I know that the main thing that you do if you want to switch roles is your weapon is a big part of that. Can we switch weapons in combat?
Yes, at level 15, you get the ability to switch your weapons in combat. Okay. And they've said, now I didn't play with this, and the next beta test I'm going to, because I didn't take the time to figure out how to do this, but you can have, I think they said two, I think, action bar setups that you can switch to, and that can be tied to your weapon. So you switch weapon, whole new action bar. Like, you can set that up. to where you can instantly switch into another action bar and weapon setup, meaning you can quite literally, if you have a second setup ready to go, drop it in the middle of combat and switch, no having to open your menus, no nothing. So you can, and that, I think that any good raider, I don't know about PvP particularly, but any good raider is going to have that. If you don't, you need to.
Here's what I like about that is you go, especially when we're at the beginning, when we get to end game, when we're first learning these encounters, and afterwards when the new patches come out and they put new encounters in, what's the composition we need for this? Well, you can run anywhere from this many healers to this many healers, this many DPS. I know it's not going to be as linear as WoW is about that, but there's going to be some degree of it, obviously. And I like the fact that you can be like, okay, well, we don't know exactly, so we're going to be safe and start out with like this many people with healing staves on. But if we feel comfortable, guys, go ahead and throw your weapons on and start attacking. And, I like the fact that you can just, change your team composition right there. Even without people dying, you can, okay, we're having a really easy time keeping everyone alive. Half the healers go DPS. We're going to freaking get this thing down quicker. Like, I like that. That's going to be nice.
All right. Any last comments on that, Andrew? I think he's busy entertaining the chat room.
Oh, no, sorry.
All right. So the next one is I want to talk about real quick is the skill system. Now that we've gotten to play with that, and I feel like a lot of people can really understand that now too, because with the ESO head, if you haven't played the beta yet, you can go play with all the skills. But I personally, like I said this before when we've gone through articles, I told you I like the look of it. Having played it myself, my personal opinion, I really love it. There's just so many things to do, and there's so many possible skill points. I'm really, really enjoying the skill system, and particularly for myself, I'm enjoying the weapon skills. I like that a lot, and I feel like I can mix up. Like, I was playing Templar a lot in this beta, and the last beta test as well, because I for a lot of this test, I continued my previous character so that I could do more PvP. But I felt like I could put a lot into the healing tree, but then put into the destruction staff as well. So I could focus on a healing tree solely and also on damage a lot. You know what I mean? I liked that quite a bit. And so I'm a fan of it. The only thing I want to see is I'd like to see a stealth tree. I do feel that I just feel that's important to have. I enjoy stealth, and I think that stealth as it stands right now, except for classes that have the bonuses to it, for races, I mean, that have bonuses to it, I feel that, and for Nightblade as well, I want a stealth tree. I really want a stealth tree so that people who want to play heavy stealth style can expand on that. And that's just my opinion on that. What about you, Anu?
I really like the skill trees. I'm not a stealth player, so I really don't have anything to say about that. I loved getting to play with, making the decisions. Do I want which morph do I want to go with on this ability? Do I want it to have longer range, or do I want it to do a little bit extra damage? And I could see making those decisions based on kind of what I'm doing. If I'm doing maybe more PvP, maybe the range would be better, And if I'm doing more PvE stuff, maybe the more initial damage would be better, stuff like that. And I like choices like that. The skill system is like really fleshed out. There's a lot of stuff you can put skill points in, from your weapons to your armor to your racial abilities to your crafting stuff, to your obviously your class abilities, things like that. And then you can pick and choose. Like, what I really was doing is I wanted the ultimate ability from one of the class trees of the Dragonite, the Big Leap. I really wanted that, but I didn't want anything else from that tree. All I wanted was the fire damage, like the AoE fire damage from the other tree. So, and I really like the ability to do that.
And you know what? It isn't linear. Like, if you're leveling up that tree at all, I mean, if you're only using one ability, it's going to take longer. But I did see that there was a tree that I had one ability that I used in it. Just one. But when I used it, it started to level up, and I had 2 or 3 different available options that I could put a skill point into, and I didn't have to do one before the other. I could put it anywhere I wanted in that tree.
Yeah,
and
that's
that
true
I
as well.
liked.
Yeah.
What about you, Nick? What was your impression of the skill trees?
Hold on a second.
Got a
This
cat.
mutinous cat off of my lap.
Sabotage.
The skill trees, awesome. I mean, they were, oh god, they're so friggin' awesome. Like, I love them. Man, I can't even, like I said, I think, yeah, I said something about this earlier, too, that I just can't say enough about what a good job they did. What is he doing? What was I? Yeah, so anyway, yeah, the skill trees are just amazing. Again, I really, like Annie, I'm a huge fan of the ability to be non-linear with it, because I remember in WoW, oh my god, being so frustrated when I wanted an ability out of the frost tree, out of the blood tree, but that meant that I had to complete my entire unholy tree and then start at the top of the next one and get halfway down it, and most of the time that meant that the good ability, I couldn't get it. And, you know, I appreciate that they are just making it to where there are literally, like, hundreds of thousands of different combinations that you can do, and I think that that's going to make for a really interesting game.
All right, I agree. One, I think we all think then the skill system is a huge strong point for the game. It's awesome. Besides, like I said, I'd like to see stealth, but I'm very happy with it. Real quick thing, sky shards. I found some sky shards. Annie, you found some sky shards. I'm sure Nick, you did as well. I like that. That's cool. 3 sky shards, the skill point, and I think I filled out several of them over my weekend. And I just really like that extra one. And in the chat room, Dark Boo said that blah blah blah, where is it? It was a Dark Boo. Yeah, he did. He said the Tamriel Foundry guys say likely 280 plus skill points to be gotten as of right now to level 50 plus. Even if that's not a completely accurate number, I'm sure it's somewhere up there based on how many you're getting. Skill points for quest rewards, skill points for filling those out. I think you can even like find some randomly in the world, but you know, you have tons and tons of skill points. That is a lot, which also I feel speaks to by the time you hit level 50 and all the things that you're going to unlock through the game skill trees wise, and if you count the crafting as well, how many options that you have.
Yeah.
So,
one thing I wanted to say about the sky shards is I know for me as a min-maxer, there's going to come a point where when I hit 50 plus, you know, whatever, I'm going to look on ESO Head and just look at the maps and say, where are all the sky shards? I'm going to ride around on my super awesome mount.
Every single one.
And go get every one. And I wish it wasn't like that. I wish I had to go find them. And so I think a workaround for that could be that maybe there are a few spawn points that they have. There are like 3 in each zone or something like that, right? Where you get one, so, you know, some kind of system like that.
At least there needs to be some exploration to get them.
Yeah, because I don't want to just see them on ESO Head and then just go point to point to point, you know?
Yeah, that's true. And I'm going to do the same exact thing. And there's already a huge amount of guides out. And they even encourage people to create guides. When they said the end days lifted, they were like, go write guides and articles and you know what I mean? Like, let us know. And instantly, the internet was flooded with, I saw maps. Here's this chest, here's this chest, here's this chest, here's this chest. And that is an unfortunate truth about MMOs. I mean, any game really, but MMOs even more so, I feel, than any other game genre. So it's just one thing out of many. However, I do think that I like that idea a lot. I think, though, even more spawn points. You actually have to run around and hope you see one.
Yeah, I think
that's just me.
Too. Yeah. Totally random, like, they don't even, like, there could be 100 up in one zone, or there could be 1 in every zone, or there could be, you know, I think it'd be awesome if it was literally one of those things that, you know, you either had to be extremely dedicated to spend the time searching the world for them, or you had to be lucky. I think, because, you know, I think any any MMO player that is going to take endgame seriously, it's the first thing you're going to do. It's the first thing you're going to do is go collect all the sky shards you can. You're going to, you're going to go collect all of the valuables you can with guides. And it's, I love guides. They're nice when I can't figure out how to do something, but it kind of takes a little bit of the, the mystique of the game away, so to speak, which it's just inevitable at this point with any game. But it'd be nice if, at least for something as very critical to how well you can, you're possibly able to do in this game, like sky shards, that, that's going to make a big difference on your performance. It'd be cool if they break the habit a little bit and go ahead and make it not just a walk in the park for every single player to have them.
All right, and as far as my last comment on skill points is, I had a few times when I was playing, more than once, that I would have a skill point and I didn't know how I got it, and I think it was like a quest reward or something, because I would just look and I'm like, wait a minute, I have a skill point? Where did that come from? Did you ever have that happen to you, either of you?
No, I didn't.
I did, and maybe I just don't pay enough attention, because I was like, wait, what? Awesome, It's like Christmas.
Yeah.
All right, so exploration, just real quickly over that, I feel that, like I said, you get off the starter island, we talked a little bit about that, but there was a lot of exploration we had. There was nooks and crannies, and there's these random world events that happen. If either of you guys ever experienced one of these, I had a couple, but here's a good instance, and actually it was my my second beta test. I was just walking down the beach, and there's this chest. And I'm like, oh, awesome, a chest. I run over to the chest to go to open it, I touch it, and a thief just pops out of it and tries to mug me. And I was so surprised, because there was actually 3 of them out of this giant chest. I almost died because I was completely taken off guard. And then I was like, is this supposed to be here? But then the chest, it despawned, and I walked by but didn't actually engage another one where there was some bandits or pirates who had somebody hostage, and you could save them. And these are random events that you can experience in the world. They're not particularly tied to any quest or anything like that. So I personally think that's really cool and adds a lot to the immersion of the world and to the exploration, just not knowing what you're going to find.
Yeah, that's weird. I didn't know things like that were in the game.
I didn't either until, I got jumped.
Yeah.
I was just like, what's happening? Oh my god.
Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah, pretty much. That's basically what it was. So I do, and I enjoy exploration. I will go peek, especially after I've completed a zone and I feel at a safe level to run around. I will just go scour everything, because there's things that I like. For instance, in the basin in Northrend in World of Warcraft, you've got the Lost, the Lost cookie.
Hatch.
The hatch, yeah, but well, you just call it the hatch, but I'm looking for the word.
Egg.
Yeah, Easter egg. Yeah, my mind's all over the place right now, but I like that kind of stuff. So, anyways, anything for you two on the exploration, particularly that you noticed that you want to point out from your gameplay?
No, just that it's awesome. That's what I spent most of my time doing after I got out of the starting zone, was just running around looking at cool stuff. And it's just nice to, it's really nice for me to have a new world to explore. I'm excited to be able to do that. I know the World of Warcraft. I know Azeroth like the back of my friggin' hand. It's a little ridiculous how, someone can be like, oh, where's that one quest? And I'll be able to tell you, exactly the coordinates on the map where it's at. It's just, it's gotten boring for me, and I'm really, really excited to be able to explore new stuff and find all those extras they put in there. Like you said, the world events, the little, you're walking along the road, all of a sudden you get jumped. You're walking along, and all of a sudden a giant comes walking by, or you encounter a Daedra or an Aedra, I think that'll be really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that stuff.
All right. And we've got a really long show for you guys tonight, and I'd like to know, later on, for you guys who listen to it, obviously we've got a few people in the chat room, but what do you guys think? Do you like the long show? Do you think it could be shorter, or do you like all the stuff we have to say? So I do want to hear, definitely an email, even if you don't want us to read it on the show, just what your thoughts are on that. But anyway, so PvP, I'm the only one. I've mentioned it here and there throughout the show. I'm the only one who got into PvP. Unfortunately, like, I enjoyed it a lot. I'm going to tell you right now, I told everyone I love PvP. I'm going to PvP in this game even though I don't PvP because I enjoyed it so much. So definitely I was impressed by it. Now, the only thing was, my first test I did get to do at least a decent-sized group PvP. I was in a group with like 40 people and we were just running around hacking stuff up. But after that, most of the time, unfortunately, the weekend tests weren't really long enough for people to really get up and do a lot of PvP. So I didn't get to experience that massive battles feel. And I'd like to have that. I mean, there was a lot of me running around exploring Cyrodiil, to be completely honest. I mean, I went around Cyrodiil and just looked at all these different places. Basically, before the test started, I made a point to go into Oblivion and run around the map. And then I went into Cyrodiil in ESO, and I ran around the map. And I was just like, hey, does this look the same? Does this look the same? And it was pretty fun. But I enjoyed the PvP a lot. I think that the siege weapons are the best thing ever. I really enjoy them. I think they're really cool. There's honestly, a bit confusing, and maybe it's my non-PvP mindset. When you put down a battering ram up against a door, you get this little pop-up when you go over it, and I don't know, you're supposed to be able to click it, I guess, but then it's got this little picture that shows, like, the number of people, and I really wasn't sure, like, what it was trying to tell me. I don't know. So I got a little confused there, but I did have a lot of fun, and I got killed a lot. But it was still fun, even getting killed, so I wasn't frustrated, so I definitely like the PvP. Emotes, just really quickly, Annie and I got to play with the emotes a bit, and they're really cool. And there's a lot of emotes in the game. They're /loot, and you start playing a loot. And then there's drums, and there's, what's the one that you found? What was the third one?
Well, you were doing the flute, and then I did the drum, and then I tried the lute, and it worked.
Okay, flute and lute.
Yeah.
Okay, I get those mixed up. Hey, those are really cool, and actually the music's really catchy. I personally think the music's really catchy.
Yeah.
And so
cool.
I like all the emotes they've got in the game, and my favorite thing about the emotes is that it doesn't put a chat message in your box. You just do it. You don't, so there's no more spamming emotes, you know what I mean? You can see people doing stuff, but you don't have that constant spam or like so-and-so pokes you, pokes you, pokes you, pokes you, pokes you, pokes you. So I really like that, like /push-up, and you do push-ups, and it's freaking awesome. Anyways, so group play, we grouped up a little bit in this last test, Anu and I, and just for I think like maybe an hour, not too much.
Yeah, we just did some questing.
It was buggy, so I'm gonna reserve judgment on that. There's some features I really like about it, but when we had some bugs that we had, and I'm sure they're gonna fix. They said it was a known issue, you know, something they're definitely gonna work on. But this last test, they didn't do a lot of major changes, just a couple fixes. So, but there's this one feature that I really like, and it allows you to port to anyone in your group. I like this feature a lot. However, I think it should have a cooldown. I didn't see a cooldown. This needs a cooldown because this could be abused, I feel like, in a lot of ways. So
that's true.
I definitely, even if it's a short cooldown, they need to have a cooldown on this. So the teleport to party member, I like it a lot. Like I said, cooldown, want to see that. Dark Anchors, did you play any Dark Anchors at all, Anu?
No, I didn't run into any of them.
Okay. They're really fun, very similar to Rift. It's really what I would say is they're very similar to the Rift system, but they're less annoying, they're less intrusive.
Yeah.
And they're because they can hit kind of hard. Like, you're not going to do it by yourself. You're going to be able to do it with a few people, but when I did them, I got a considerable chunk of experience. So if there's other people around when I'm leveling, I would definitely stop and do Dark Anchors whenever I saw them up, because I got a considerable amount of experience from them for taking my time. So I want to talk a little bit about the worlds, you know, the world and the graphics, your art, your immersion, how you felt in the world, and just the appeal of how the game really looks as an MMO player, as an Elder Scrolls player. Nick, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, as far as the world goes, and it's because of the graphics. I mean, the world is just gorgeous in this game. I love it. I love, not only how good it looks, but I love the setting. I love where we're at. I just, and I guess it wouldn't really matter to me what kind of terrain I was on. If it looked that good, I would love looking at it no matter what. So as far as, I like the world a lot, but for me, what makes that, like I said, it's the graphics. I'm huge into graphics. I love I love being able to crank it up onto ultra and still get all my frames per second, and I love that this game allows us to do that. And that's actually something when we started talking about this, I've been wanting to mention, is that I really, really appreciate the fact that they have done their best to make their good graphics accessible to as many people as possible, because it does not kill your computer to run it on ultra. It's very, very, very fair, actually, the amount of power it takes.
We were getting 100 frames per second. I mean, outdoors
and that's
on ultra.
And that's with, my computer is, I've got, it's a nice computer, but my graphics card is a major choke point for me right now. I need a new graphics card. It's a good graphics card, but I definitely need a new one. And even with that, it looks so freaking good. And it wouldn't, like I said, it wouldn't really matter what they had me looking at if it was that detailed. It's so refreshing to see a game look like that and not have to have a $6,000 computer to make it look like that. It's nice.
All right, I'd just like to mention real quick to Dawn of Darkness. If you go on to where you can order the Elder Scrolls Online, they've actually, on their website, they've put up your system requirements for that. So that's a pretty good basic point to go off of. And that's the recommended minimum. So that's like not a hard set point. I mean, I know I've been there when Star Wars came out. I had a laptop. Nick had a computer. I was like, oh, I'm going to be all right. And Star Wars came out and my computer just spluttered and died basically on me every time I played the game. So I understand why you're asking. I think this is going to be easier though.
Much
for that.
more reasonable, yeah.
It's forgiving, a lot more forgiving for systems. All right.
Yeah,
so,
well, I just think it's just really, really well optimized.
Yeah.
That's the key.
They made a really lean engine, I think. They are pumping a lot of juice out of this engine without making it just a power sucking nightmare.
Yeah.
And Andy, what do you think about the graphics and the world personally?
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit earlier. I just thought it was really pretty, just like Nick was saying. The landscape was just gorgeous. What I really liked about it is coming from the WoW, like the top-down view, like everything is kind of in the WoW, like the Blizzard art style, things like that, where like I'm on my flying mount next to a mountain, but I don't really feel like I'm next to a mountain. In ESO, if I'm next to a hill, I am definitely next to a hill. Like that thing dwarfs,
Yeah, I think that helps with.
And I like that.
I think one thing I just want to ask both of you. WoW has unique graphics, is in that game was made, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, worked on longer than that. And it still looks good because the graphics are nearly timeless because of how they did. What do you think the life of this game's graphics are really going to be?
Well,
that's a good question.
Here's the thing about that is obviously graphics are always getting better. They're always evolving. However, there's a different standard for MMOs because it depends on what your engine can do. And they've been working on this game for quite a while, but they have a cutting edge custom engine. And I don't think that a game is going to come out in the next couple of years that's going to all of a sudden have a more cutting edge engine. I think that as far as, eventually we're going to get to the point where a lot of the games coming out are going to look as good, if not better. But I think it's going to be not as timeless as World of Warcraft because with the complete stylized graphics that they went with WoW, it's just, you can't really tell if what you're looking at is bad. I mean, you can tell when you're comparing it side by side, but I couldn't tell you how many polygons are in my character model just by looking at it. You know, it's they went with a little more of like a photorealistic graphic, and that's always, you know, those are quicker to go because it's just another year they'll have a new, you know, NVIDIA come out with a new graphics card, and whoever will come out with a new engine, and it'll look even more photorealistic. But I think that they did well enough with building this engine that they will be able to keep up with that for a long time. That, you know, as things go on, when they realize, okay, now the standard is this, okay, well then when we release an expansion, that's what it's going to look like. And, you know, that it's going to help. It's just like, again, just like in WoW, you know, you go back to vanilla, it looks like shit. But if you go to Pandaria now, it looks pretty damn good over there. You know, it's really, really nice considering what kind of an engine they're using. So I think that if WoW was able to keep their engine relevant for like 12 years now is when they actually bought that engine to start building this game, I think ESO's got a long graphical life ahead of it.
All right, Andy?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Nick. The good thing is, with the obvious example of WoW and just kind of shitty graphics, just overall, you know, people don't really play WoW for the graphics. I'm sure there are some diehard, you know, Blizzard art style fanboys out there, you know, but they're going to be few and far between. So if ESO gets the gameplay good, gets the, you know, which we all agree that it is, gets the end game good, the rating and things like that, and the PvP good, then I think people will come, whether it's outdated or not.
All right. The guild system, I'll touch on that right now. I mean, Anu, I know you didn't really play any guild. We made one, which I first want to say, somebody stole our name on the beta, and I was shocked.
You thieves.
You thieving jerks. I tried to make Skooma Junkies, and it told me that name was already taken. I am so disappointed. So disappointed. But beside the point, the guild was pretty good. I have one guild. I'm going to kind of tie guild and auction house and bank in because I think I'm the only one who really looked at that, really, because I had time. You know, my character who was already at level 12, so I spent a lot of this last beta just kind of poking around at some of the features in the game. There's some features that I would like to see as a guild master that I think need to be there. I think that under the guild options, for instance, you can select for your bank tabs what rank can withdraw from the bank and can put into the bank. You can't select how many withdrawals they can have. And I think that's, I don't think I saw a gold limit, but I'm not positive, so don't quote me on that. But there has to be, I'm sure. But as far as items, I wasn't seeing items per tab. And now I didn't go into the guild bank itself, but just from the guild control menu, I wasn't seeing, you know, this rank, this many items per day. You know what I mean? And I think I'd like to see that. I think guild repair is something I do want to see in the game. Mm-hmm. And I do also like WoW's so much gold made from looting goes into your bank. I think that's a really good idea, and I want to see that implemented here again. Or I think part of it should be, and I don't know, I'd love to find this out, is a percentage of the auctions. Like, say, you know, World of Warcraft, most auction houses, they tax, they have a tax. You don't get the full amount that you posted. They just take a little bit. I want to see that go into the guild bank. I think that'd be an awesome idea. So the auction house and the bank being tied to the guild, it's too early to say. I think it's a cool idea with the auction house being tied to the guild, but I really need to get in and see it in action. But the auction house interface needs to improve, or it needs to be fully moddable, because I'm going to say it now, it's terrible. I did not like the auction house interface at all. That's one thing I'm going to, you know, put a negative on right now. That's something that I want to see improve. And if we can mod it, great, because my World of Warcraft auction house is crazy, insane, complicated. So I wouldn't leave it basic anyways. And so I could care less what it looks like as long as you can use add-ons to improve it. If you can't, though, at least give us a search function. Because I didn't see a search function when I was in there. I saw you can filter items by this and what it is within this, but you couldn't put in, like, you were looking for a specific item, you couldn't put in the name of the item. So unless, if I'm wrong, if there was a hotkey or something, somebody tell me, but otherwise that's something that I want to see there, because I looked around for it and I couldn't find it. And you have to have search.
Have they made a statement yet about if this is open source code or not, if they're going to let us develop add-ons?
Well, yes, we can develop add-ons, just not graphics ones.
Well,
just...
no, I know. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can do graphics ones, but...
Yes, this game, you can do UI add-ons. That's what they've said. But UI add-ons, a lot of things falls under that. So that's the last couple things, is the UI and your friends and mail system. The friends and the mail is instant. That's all I've got to say. It makes me really happy. And you don't have to go to a mailbox. It just goes to your character.
That is dandy.
I was super happy about that.
No more waiting that stupid, pointless hour that nobody wants to wait when sending mail.
Yeah.
And no going to a mailbox.
Yeah, what was that for? Immersion? Like, come on now. What the heck?
I mean, I like immersion too, but I like it. I'm an instant gratification person. I want my mail now. The friends system is pretty easy to use. I like it, the friends being a cross account. I mean, it's the same thing that we've gotten used to with like Real ID. That's something that I'm happy to see in this game. And it makes finding friends really easy. You don't have to do it by email or anything. You can just do at their account name if they've given that to you. So UI, it's really clean, and I like it a lot. I mean, it's hard not to if you're playing, especially if you're raiding or you're doing PvP in World of Warcraft, because that's where I'm coming from. So I have to say it's hard not to get cluttered. If you want to be at your maximum performance, you've got crap everywhere, and that's not even an option here, and I appreciate that. It makes me focus more on the game and enjoying the game than on my action bar. What do you guys think about that?
I'll say the only thing I have to say about the UI and the friends thing is I did find it, but I do come from a modded WoW chat box. You know, to be fair, I did find that when we grouped up the first time, I was like, "How in the world do I whisper her? I have no idea how to do this." Like, and it wasn't explained to me at all. Obviously, I had to think about it and go, okay, open up the social tab. Okay, now what? And it just felt kind of clunky with that. But that could just be me not being familiar with it.
Okay, one thing I want to say to everyone right now, Darkboo, and I'm going to go look at this. He says, ESO UI is the site. So I'm actually going to look at that right now. And if so, that's awesome. Now, I'm sure I always use Curse. And I know a lot of people, though, that don't want to use Curse. So if this is real here, yeah. Elder Scrolls Online add-ons. So cool. Wow, there's already this. There's only a few, but they've got a huge thing. Yeah, take a look at this. ESOUI.com. Thank you for that, Darkboo. Definitely. So I'm going to do our lore library now. That's the end of our topic for this week with our beta impressions. And like I said, we've got lots of stories to tell and stuff, but just covering, there was so much to talk about, and I think that we got out a lot tonight as far as that's concerned. So is there any last things you guys want to put in about that before we move on?
Nope.
I think that redonkulously long list of specific things we discussed is plenty of yabbering about our specific beta impressions. Even though next time we play it again, we're gonna have to do another one. But anyway,
I want to talk about the game. I've been wanting to talk about this beta for months. All right. So our lore library section tonight, we're talking about the Daggerfall Covenant as promised. This is our third and final alliance. We're going to talk about them.
The best alliance.
As Anu says, the best alliance. There is now a poll up on our website, and you can go vote for what faction alliance you would like to see the Skooma Junkies guild on. So go vote. Like I said, this is actually, I've set a date on it. It's starting today, which is the 19th of February. The poll is ending on the 19th of March. So that is when we will announce, on Wednesday the 19th of March, we will announce what faction we're going to be on. So you have 1 month to vote. You know, go vote. We want to hear where you want to be, and the winning faction, the winning alliance is where we'll end up. So without further ado, I will tell you about the Daggerfall Covenant.
Hey, wait a second. I thought you were doing the best alliance. We're not doing Aldmeri again.
Lol.
I see how it is. Well, I like the Evanhart. I mean, no. Evanhart rules. Evanhart supremacy.
Silence.
Oh my gosh.
You're gonna have to do like a steel
You see
cage
why
match.
you guys have to choose for us?
Yeah, this is
You
bad.
see? We cannot decide. Alright, the Daggerfall Covenant. The Daggerfall Covenant is comprised of the Breton, Orc, and Redguard race. They are led by High King Emmerich, a Breton merchant lord. He is known to be extremely shrewd and skilled in diplomacy. He created the Daggerfall Covenant by securing an alliance by marriage with the Redguards of Daggerfall, and recruited the Orcs to his cause by creating a peace treaty, a considerable feat. The Orcs and Bretons had been at war for years. The Bretons dwell in the province of High Rock. They're human, but they have ancient elven descent, making them powerful sorcerers. Much like Imperials, they are also capable diplomats and traders, most likely a product of their human blood. Passionate, flamboyant, intelligent, and resourceful, the Bretons are renowned and talented craftsmen, shrewd merchants, gallant cavaliers, and inventive wizards. The war raging over the Ruby Throne has put a strain on High Rock's once thriving economy, which is what drove High King Emmerich, once a merchant lord himself, to form the Covenant. The Orcs of the Daggerfall Covenant have a long history of conflict with the Bretons. Countless times they have tried to settle in High Rock, only to eventually be driven out by the resident Bretons. They are extremely skilled smiths, creating some of the best armor and weapons in all of Tamriel, and are also strong, honorable warriors. High King Emmerich knew this, and so forged a peace treaty with the Orcs, despite the fact that many consider them cruel and barbaric. The Redguards are the elite fighters of the Covenant. Their culture is an ancient one, carried over from their original homeland of Yokuda and preserved when they migrated to Hammerfell. They prize honor and dignity above all else, combining a deep reverence for the divine with suspicion of all things magical. Which is interesting, since the Bretons use a lot of magic, but that's just putting that in there. But their lives in the unforgiving Alakir Desert have made them both hardy and disciplined, and they are fighters from the moment they can hold a sword. Many of Tamriel's finest warriors are Redguards. The fine craftsmanship of the Orcs, the fighting skill of the Redguards, and the colorful array of skills brought by the Bretons, the Daggerfall Covenant stands a good chance in the fight for the Ruby Throne. High King Emmerich has demonstrated his ability as a tactful politician many times over. His skills of diplomacy are good both for when fighting a war and leading an empire. And so that is the Daggerfall Covenant for you. And I must admit, writing it and reading it, they do seem like they have the widest array of, I'll give them this, the widest array of resources and talents. But I'm still for the Evanhart.
It's because they're selfish and they keep all their stuff to themselves. They're bad.
Badasses.
Alright, so that is the Daggerfall Covenant. Go vote. We've talked about, in our last 3 episodes, we've talked about all of the different alliances. So go, who is your favorite? What do you want to play? Go vote, and we will tell you on the 19th of next month what faction we're going to be on. And also, before we move on, I would like to just mention real quick, since we're talking about the guild, next week I'm going to put out some info as far as how you can join. You can email us an application for the guild, and I'll tell you exactly what you should have on there. But basically, the number one thing so that we can do the invites right now, since I'm not seeing a system to automatically have the guild created like we had with Tor, and unless that comes out, which would be awesome. But if it doesn't, if you already have an account, you've already registered your game, that name is the one that shows up in-game to do invites. So if you want to apply before, let us know your username, your user ID, and we will, with your application, we will write it down. You can just tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll write it down, and then all those invites will go out shortly after the game goes up when we've made the guild. So if you would like to apply even before you know about what guild would be in, just send us an email and let us know that. Or you can wait until after and you could give us your character name, whatever you want to do. But that's how we're going to, right now, we'll be creating a list so that I know who to invite when it comes out. So that's where we stand right now, and we'll have some more details about that next week.
Don't let the application thing scare you away. You don't have to have 10 years of MMO rating.
No, we're not even going to. We will. Everyone is welcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether you're a PvPer, a PvEer, you're a casual, just a fan, whatever. Everyone is welcome. It's just really, what faction are you going to play your main on? How can we invite you? A little bit about yourself if you want. You know what I mean? Just anything you want to put in there. Just so we have a username and we know who you are when we invite you. So.
But then once we become awesome, it's over. Now we're going to be jerks about it. So get in while you still have the chance.
All right. So we have 3 emails tonight. This first one is from Therapist. Yeah, I don't know. He's a Brit. Maybe that's something to do with it. But thank you, Therapist, for sending us an email. Is that his character name? Is
the
he a
rapist.
therapist? I'm just going to say Therapist, okay? Because that... I don't... That just... Let's just go with Therapist, okay?
Do we need to call the police?
All right. Nick, why don't you read this one? This is our long email, so.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Oh my goodness, this is a long email. Okay. It says, "Hey, Skooma Junkies." I like that word, Skoomer. "Congrats on your podcast. The shows are getting better and better as you go along, so keep up the good work. I've posted this question on forums in the past and not gotten a lot of response, but knowing that Anu and Nick enjoyed PvP and WoW, that they probably have some experience of arena-style fighting, and I wondered what you guys think about the arena in Cyrodiil. I've cut and pasted my original forum question for you guys to have a look at, and would appreciate any input you might have. And his question is, I've been thinking about the arena idea and would love it to be an addition to ESO at some point. I think an arena system could address a few nagging issues that surround PvP as a whole. I understand that ZeniMax are trying to make the game as accessible to as many people as possible technology-wise, but some computers will still lag with 200 people on screen in these epic battles that they're talking about. An arena would at least give these people an opportunity to battle other players in a less GPU/CPU hungry way, which is a good thing, which I do agree with. Another issue it could address is the whole gear argument. Players are always bitching that the reason that they lost a fight was because the other person had better gear. I know there's no gear split between PvP and PvE, but if you're in purple gear and I'm in green, you have a stat advantage. What if in arena you don't wear gear that you've earned? You could get issued arraignment appropriate to your playstyle, which has some balanced stats, or maybe you get a pool of stats and you can slot to your arraignment how you see fit, knowing your own playstyle, but everybody gets the same amount of points to spend. The system would be purely about player skill, what abilities you have on your hotbar, and how you use them situationally. Was just wondering what your thoughts were on this. Oh, and I made a game that involved betting. Come on.
Yes.
Come on, this rocked in oblivion. Yeah, there we go. Come on, this rocked in oblivion. It's great there's another Elder Scrolls podcast out there, and I think you're doing a great job. All the best for the future, Therapist or the Rapist.
All right, and I'm definitely going to hand this one off to Anu because he does a lot of arena. But I do want to say one thing. I like this idea of all gear having that, but I think it should be a mode. So kind of like we have heroic and normal. I think that'd be awesome to see where your gear is going to be equal, whether you can assign stats or not, but have it be optional to play that way. That's my thoughts on that. But what do you think, Anu?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just going to take this piece by piece because I do have kind of a lot to say about this. I'm going to tie the arena style fighting with the gambling, all right? And I'm going to throw out an awesome idea. I'm talking, imagine Oblivion style, like the gladiator fights, right? Except you fight another player, or maybe it's 2v2 or 3v3, you know, sort of like the WoW arena style with betting, okay? Players can come into the arena, watch and bet on teams and make some gold, lose some gold, maybe have a team that's like doing really well, like a gladiator level team, and then they just get wrecked by some scrubs or something, and everyone loses like a shitload of
I
gold.
love that idea.
Yeah.
Don't bet
But
on
one
me.
guy makes like a killing. You know, that's what I want to see. I think that would be really, really fun. I do totally agree, just like Nick does, with the 200 players on the screen, though. Some people play MMOs with dial-up. Like, that really happens. Probably more often than a lot of people would think. I think the national average internet speed in America is less than 20 megabits a second. That's decent for an MMO, but it's not great. It's not 200 people on screen at ultra flawlessly, you know. So you definitely have a point there. I think the gear thing in the Cyrodiil kind of 200 people, huge garrison battles, things like that, really doesn't matter because there's so many people. You're likely to have as many better geared players on your team as the other side does. You know, that's going to even out essentially, and you just have to get better gear, right? So I get that. But the arena system would be interesting to do a raiment kind of thing where you get issued a set of gear or something. You're a freaking gladiator. You joined a gladiator 2v2 team, for instance, you know, and this is your 2v2 gear set. And this is what you have to wear. And that would be really cool.
Yeah.
That would not only make it balanced, but a thing that you have in WoW is you can't consider the PvP in WoW like, professional, like competitive gaming things don't consider that legitimate competitive gameplay because it is unbalanced. Mm-hmm. It's just inherently unbalanced. You would increase that pool of players and that kind of draw to the game if you did have some kind of arena system where you're issued equivalent gear, totally equivalent gear, and it's completely skill based. So I love your thoughts, man.
I like this a lot, and I love hearing what you have to say about this too, Annie. Like I said, you know a lot about this, and I agree. Like I said, and I think another thing that kind of pops out to me as more of a PvP noob is that if you can have, obviously you start in various tiers, but there's still a gap in the tier. Like even at the very top to the bottom of your tier for gear when you're like queuing into arena, there's still going to be a gap until they pass a certain point. So I feel like that idea, like a mode like that, would make it more friendly for people who are just wanting to start, and it would be a lot easier for them that way. So any thoughts on that, Nick?
Yeah, I personally, I agree with basically everything Anu said about every single thing. So I'm not going to repeat everything. But as far as the equal gear thing, I think that it would be great as a mode. I think that it would be really cool, and it would, you could even call that tournament mode, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. But the one thing that I do get a little wary about in that situation is the fact that, looking at WoW, certain classes and especially certain combinations are ridiculously hard to beat. And the only way some people are able to beat them is because they have worked their asses off and they have way better gear than these people. So if you come into it and, you're facing off against a ridiculously overpowered combination and your combo is just normal and you both have equal gear, even if you're better than them, they may get you because it's, you can't kill them, or they just do a ridiculous amount of damage, burst, or something silly like that. So, I think it would be a really cool option. I think that they should definitely do that as optional. I don't know how I would feel about it being permanent and mandatory, but it is definitely a good idea to put in there as optional because, again, you're going to draw more official attention to this. To it's not about gear. It's about, these are some of the top PvPers in the world. I think that's the kind of thing that you're going to draw with that is like, for instance, like the StarCraft crowd for Blizzard. You know what I mean? You draw some very, very serious people to that because it's a skill-based game. So anyway.
All right, so this was an awesome email. You brought a lot of good points. We love getting emails like this. So thank you for sending that. Therapist. All right. Email from Chance. Anu, why don't you read this one for us real quick?
All right. He says, "Hey guys, first off, I really like the show and how it is so far. I'm planning on doing a lot of PvP in ESO, and a few of my friends want me to come up with a few plans that might give us a small upper hand in a few situations. One thing I've been thinking is based around trebuchets and catapults. Have we heard anything about effective range of them, or is it only a keep that can be used against that they can be used against? Otherwise, if, for example, there was a battle or two spread out over a relatively close area in some small fields, my plan was to set them up on a hill a little ways away and use the trebuchets and catapults as an artillery position to help turn the tide of the fight. Just want to hear you guys' opinion on this strategy, and hope you join the Ebonheart Pack." Oh, get out of here.
I agree.
Because I would love to play with you. Well, anyway, see you guys in game. Chance.
All right. I like the strategy idea, but unfortunately it's not possible. There is basically a amount of space outside of the keeps that you can put them down, but you can't just put them down anywhere in the world. They can be used against other players, though. Certain ones, like the battering ram, pretty much is very specific. But other ones, you aim them. You get in and you can aim. So they can be used against players, but they do have to be around a keep, so there's that. And our last email is from Dimitri. He says, "Hi, Skooma Junkies. I wanted to hear your thoughts on a few things that I've seen as being problematic in the current beta state of ESO. I'll list the top 3 things I've had an issue with. The sound when doing melee combat, mainly 2 one-handed weapons. Striking your opponent should give a good characteristic sound. I found the current sound to be pretty bad and not indicative of proper close-range melee combat. The ambience and world music is great, but do you guys see a problem with combat sounds? 2. Character models are floaty. This is a big one for me. Maybe I'm very much used to the character models of WoW. These are very animated and the stances look good. In ESO, the characters look stiff and not as much animation. Is this because they're not fully done? And 3. The armor graphics look terrible. I'm not asking for WoW-style big lightning shoulders with lava coming out of them, but it seems that all the armor in ESO is kind of drawn on the character. Maybe this has something to do with Cyrodiil PvP and the fact that those armor graphics need to be rendered by your video card, and ZOS doesn't want to tax your video card and CPU too much. Any thoughts on this? Thanks, guys. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on some of these issues. I feel like the game is going in the right direction, and beta for me was very enjoyable. Dimitri." And this is our second email from Dimitri, so thank you. And I definitely actually agree. The first one, not so much. I didn't notice anything wrong with the melee combat sounds, so I can't really comment on that. If I didn't notice it, it wasn't that big of an issue for me. However, character models, I don't feel like they're too floaty. I mean, they're running movement. They aren't done yet. That's the truth. They will be done by launch, and however, not everything is implemented in the beta that we're playing right now, and that's one of the last things really that they put in when they've got other things. So I think we'll probably see a little bit of a change by the end, but definitely in World of Warcraft, sometimes it's annoying, but your character fidgets and does these little things just when they're standing there, and I do feel like they're far more animated, and I do like that. I didn't particularly miss it per se, but I can see where you're coming from. But yeah, I think there's probably some things that aren't totally implemented into the game yet that we'll see as one of those last-minute things that's being worked on or is done, but it's not one of the things they're putting to the forefront of our attention right now. Armor graphics. All right, I agree. I like the concept art for a lot of it, and once you get shoulder pads on and a helmet, it adds a little bit more to it, but I do see the drawn-on look, definitely.
Yeah, I do too.
And I'm thinking in-game will be... later game graphics armor will look better. I'm hoping for that. But if not, yes, I'm not turned off by the armor styles. I'm just not impressed with them. So that's my thoughts on that. What about you, Anu?
I do have something to say about the two-handed or the 2 one-handed weapons, like the dual wielding striking. I did feel like when I was playing that it didn't really feel that meaty, like when you were swinging or something. It felt like maybe you were just kind of slicing through air, but you were just doing damage or something. But in that interview with Brian Wheeler, he actually mentions it on MMORPG. He mentions that somewhere in it when I was reading it earlier. And I can't remember what he said, but they are aware of this thing. And he says more to come. It'll be fixed essentially. So that's good. The character model's looking floaty. I really didn't notice that. I didn't see anything. They didn't seem stiff to me. They seem pretty chill. And then they are kind of drawn on. But at the end of the day, you look at some of the WoW style armor, and it's clear that it's not like the shoulders, like especially like on an orc, like the giant shoulders. They're not. they're floating. They're not attached. You know what I mean? So you can nitpick a lot of little things like that. But I get what you're saying, and that's maybe just be an artistic like taste that you may not prefer or something.
All right, Nick.
Okay. Well, personally, the only thing that I noticed during my gameplay was the same thing that you both noticed, same as the armor. I did notice that it's almost like it seems like it's not textured the same as the rest of the game, maybe. I don't know what the exact problem is, but two reasons that I do not think you should be worried about that. Number one, they do not implement these little things like upper textures and good looking graphical modifications to the game. They do that in their mad rush the month before they release this game. They have spent the last several years developing and implementing and fine-tuning the major systems. All of this little stuff, it comes very close to the end. It is surprising. I mean, they are still hard at work on this game. They're not done with it. Even though it's coming out in, 2 months or a month and a half, even less than that, it's not done yet. So, do not worry about that. I promise you that based on what I've seen from this game, you will not be disappointed. And number two, you got to remember, whatever beta we're playing, it's on average minimum of 2, even up to 3 versions behind what the devs are working with right now. This is a really old version of the game that we're playing in the beta right now. They have done a lot more work that we have no idea about. I mean, there could even be things that are completely out or brand new things in the game. I mean, we're working like a good 3 to 5 months behind what they're actually physically working with right now. So, it's, another thing that people have to remember is the beta is not for you to get an impression of this game. The beta is your, so to speak, your chosen duty as a gamer that cares about the gaming community to help them test their game and to help them make it better. It's not for gaining an impression of the game. I know that they've, I don't know if I've ranted about this on the show or not, but I've had a lot of conversations with Megan about this, and I really dislike how commercialized the beta has become for video games. It used to be something really special that not very many people were included in, and it was only people that did it for the right reasons. Now it's a reward for pre-ordering. Now it's a something that you get if you get the deluxe edition, or it's a lot of times people just expect open beta now. Open beta, full open beta, no NDA, anyone can join, and I do not agree with that. I think that the beta should stay more in the very, I don't want to say the hardcore, but that's the only word I'm thinking of right now, is the more serious gaming community that just people that care about the community in general and are willing to play this game when it looks and feels like crap in order to make it better for everyone else when it actually comes out. So anyway, that's all I have to say on that.
All right, and I've got one thing to say on Nyx, and that is, yes, the game's not done, like you said. However, that does not mean the game will not be done by launch. I see a lot of people who are like, oh, the game's not going to be done by launch because the beta's like this or because this is like this. That they have done a lot of improvement in the game. From my September to my November test was a huge improvement. From my November to my January test was 10 times the improvement I'd seen before the last. They're making really quick work on these fixes and these improvements, which I think is proof of true of what Nick said of us being behind on the game models they gave us. Because I even noticed the game looked better. Like, there's so many little things you wouldn't think they're changing right now that they are. And like I said, they're making these... Based on the speed that I've seen these improvements be put out, I don't think you need to worry about the game not being finished. Are there going to be bugs? Sure. I've never seen a completely smooth launch. That's just not how it works. And I'm not going to lie, Bethesda doesn't have the best track record for smooth game launches either. But I don't think you need to worry about the game being unfinished. And I don't think it should be anything out of the normal for an MMO launch. So that was our last email. Now getting into the Fishy Stick Award of the Week, and then we're going to be done. So for those of you who are new to the show, the Fishy Stick Award is an award that we give out to members of the community for art that they do. Art, mods, just any kind of creative work that our community does that we find to be exceptional. We give them a Fishy Stick Award if it really sticks out to us. And we can only do one a week, but there's lots of stuff that we want to do. What it actually is, the Fishy Stick started on the Bethesda forums, the official Bethesda forums, way back in the Morrowind days, by Captain Eldrad, who would give out a Fishy Stick to deserving members. Later on, that Fishy Stick was even given to new members by other members, and it became just a thing that went through the game. Oh, here I have a Fishy Stick, here I have a Fishy Stick, you know. And it was actually put into game as little Easter eggs, and you can see it in Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim. There's Easter eggs for the Fishy Stick, and if you go on to uesp.net, you can find out more about the Fishy Stick and see where you can find some of those Easter eggs. But if any of you have done the quest in Skyrim for Shia Gorath, and you here, if it ever didn't make sense to you, nothing he does really makes sense, but I'm doing the Fishy Stick. Well, that's why he's doing the Fishy Stick. So this week, our Fishy Stick Award goes to the Alchemist Compendium by RG Mage 2 on the Skyrim Nexus. This is another mod. And the reason for so many mods is I reinstalled Skyrim, I wiped it and reinstalled it, redid everything, and I've been going through all these mods. And there's a lot of new mods out, and it's like shopping. I put this on Twitter. I feel like I'm shopping. I felt the same way when I used to put lots of custom content into Sims 3 too. I can just go for hours and like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. And that's what I love about our community as well, that we have that out there. So what this is, the Alchemist Compendium is an in-game book that you can get that has every single ingredient, and it has the what each ingredient does. So you can go open the book. It's kind of like a immersion thing at the same time. Like, you don't instantly, it doesn't teach you what everything does, so you're instantly a master alchemist. But you can go open the book and be like, flip, flip, flip to this page. Oh, here's this ingredient. Here's what it does. Oh, and I can mix it with this because these have shared, they have shared attributes. So it's basically, because, you know, I have the guide, the big Skyrim book guide, and it does tell you what each ingredient does. And this is kind of like having that in-game. Like, so it's just kind of a cool immersion thing. I really like it. And it says 2 ingredients per page with a small picture of each ingredient and lists all 4 effects, 56 pages in total, and includes info on all the DLC ingredients as well. Positive effects are in green and negative effects are in red. And Nick, can you pull up that picture for us? It shows us what one of the pages is.
For like the last minute and a half.
There you go. So I definitely think if you're into this kind of little addition, it's useful, it's immersive, it's fun, you know, it's a role play thing. I definitely check it out. I like it. It's something that I'm going to actually be using myself as well. So that is our Fishy Stick Award of the week. That, like I said, RG Mage 2. And the mod is called the Alchemist's Compendium. And you can look it up on the Skyrim Nexus. And actually, it right now is listed as a featured mod on the front page, so under hot files, so it will be there if you want to go see that. So definitely recommend that. So that is it for our show today. It's been a long show, 2 hours actually, but if you like the show, contact us. You can email us at skoomajunkies@gmail.com. That's SKOOMA junkies@gmail.com. Our website is skoomajunkies.com. Facebook is facebook.com/skoomajunkies. Twitter is twitter.com/skoomajunkies. And Twitch is twitch.tv/skoomajunkies. You can also find us on Google Plus and YouTube. Links on our webpage. I know I haven't been great about getting YouTube videos up. I have not been great about it. This one will be up there. And it's been a lot because of the technical issues that we've had. However, this was one smooth recording and one smooth video on Twitch, so that will be up on YouTube later tonight. And Google Plus, again, I'm not too good at Google Plus, but who uses Google Plus anyways, right? Our show is available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Podkicker. You can also listen to us on our website. You leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, and we'll mention your name on the show. Thank you. Like I said, we had one earlier, and we'd love it. 2 more ratings, and we'll actually have a little thing that says our rating up there, which would be really awesome. So you can follow us individually on Twitter. You can follow me at Moonsugar99. That's MOONSUJGAR 99. Nick is at N Billings, NBILLINGS 21. And Anu is now on Twitter. Yay! At Anu Junkie, which is ANU. It's a little // thing. What do you call that?
Underscore,
right. Anu _ Junkie. So ANU _ JUNKIE. And I don't know about them. I've been trying to tweet. I'm getting used to it. I'm not the best tweeter. I'm really not one of those people that puts up every moment of my life on the internet all day, But I am working on putting stuff up as it comes to my mind that I'd like to say. So, follow us on Twitter. And so that's the show. Closing thoughts, Nick.
Closing thoughts. Man, I just can't wait for this game to come out. That's pretty much going to be my closing thought for the next 10 shows until we have our game. I'm really excited to get into a new game. I have been on a quite extended break from WoW because I just was tired of the same old thing. And when I play games, I don't play halfway. I am like at the cutting edge of performance, so I just got tired of it, and I'm really excited to have a new game to sink my teeth into. So I cannot wait till this game comes out.
All right. Anu, any last thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm totally with you, Nick. I've also been like crazy overwhelmed with all with the NDA gone. So much information out there, guys. ESO had everywhere, and they actually retweeted something today. I've never done that before. I don't even know what that means, but I did it. Something from Elder Scrolls Online saying that there's a lot more info coming, crafting specific, and I'm really looking forward to that. So that's a kind of a big deal for me.
All right, I love the chat room. You guys are really fun to have in here.
Yeah.
And yes, I do have plain old brown hair underneath all this red, but you'll never see it, so it doesn't really matter. So this was a really good show. I enjoyed it. Like I said, it was a long show, nearly 2 hours long. We had a lot to say, and email us, let you know. Did you like the length? Because we've cut short a lot of times.
You're bad at math, just so you know. It's been like 2 hours and 45 minutes.
No, 7 to 8. Oh yeah, it has been. Whatever. 3-hour show. Go for it. I got mixed up there. So 3-hour show. Like I said, it was really long, and we had a lot to say. But at the same time, I had so much fun, even more fun than last week with this one. And I think it's because we got to really open up about everything. And I feel like we had a lot to say, so let us know. And, next week, I just want to mention, we're going to be talking about vampires and werewolves, which is my favorite subject in Elder Scrolls. So I think everyone really wants to hear about that. Now that we have those skill trees up, we're going to be talking about the vampires and werewolves and how the Fighters Guild correlates to them. And we'll do a bit of lore on vampires next week as well in Elder Scrolls, obviously. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Go vote. Like I said, you can email us about joining the guild, and also we'll have more details about that next week specifics. But thank you for coming to watch the show, everyone. Thank you for joining us in the chat room. It was really awesome to have you guys here. So,
Yes.
We will see you next week.
We
Yep,
love
see you
chat
guys.
room. You guys are
Later.
awesome.
We do. And Nick is in the doghouse today.
Okay. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye. As soon as I can figure out how to stop broadcasting. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.